Welcome to Acera's pre-retirement seminar. In this seminar, I'm going to tell you all the things that you might want to know in the 3 years leading up to retirement. Or it could be even the 3 months leading up to retirement or the 3 weeks leading up to it, because you are going to retire soon. And that's why you're watching this seminar. And you probably have some questions. Questions like, what do I need to know? Or what do I need to do, if anything? Well, I'm going to answer those questions for you during the presentation. I have organized the answers to the presentation and all of the topics of the presentation in the form of this checklist. So we're going to go through your pre-retirement checklist today. I'm going to help you understand your membership. So we'll talk a little bit about some of the pension basics regarding your membership. We'll talk about your contributions. We'll look at your retirement timeline. We'll talk about your tier. We'll do this all pretty briefly, because you probably want to get right to estimating your benefit and understanding how we calculate your benefit and what your retirement benefit is going to be that you're going to receive every month for the rest of your life. So we will talk about the retirement formula. We'll talk about considering purchasing service credit. We'll talk a lot about how vacation affects the salary component of the retirement formula. That's an in-depth discussion because people have a lot of questions about that. And then I'll show you our online benefit estimator tool that will help you get your own specific custom estimate for you. In the second half of the presentation, we will talk about your retirement eligibility, making sure that you're actually eligible. You probably are if you're watching this video, but we'll just go ahead and double check on that. We will talk about choosing your retirement date, and I'll tell you some different things that you're going to want to think about when actually choosing that date. We'll talk about the application process that you're going to use to retire, like how you actually apply to retire, and the 5 different retirement allowance options that you will choose one of during that application process. We will also talk about additional benefits that we offer, such as medical, dental, and vision benefits. So we'll talk about the different healthcare plans and then the subsidies offered for helping you pay for those plans. We'll talk really briefly about a few different life events and just signing up for Acera News. Okay, we got a lot to talk about, so let's jump right in. Excuse me. First of all, let me help you understand your Acera membership. So we'll start from the beginning of the story with who is Acera. Acera is the Alameda County Employees Retirement Association. So it's this acronym, but really it's made up of a lot of people. So at Acera, there's maybe 90 or so of us that work here, and our entire job is to provide retirement, disability, and death benefits to all of our members. That's all of you. You are part of Acera because you are a member of Acera, and you're a member of Acera because of where you work and who you work for. And by where you work, I mean the position that you work in and who you work for. So you work currently, or at some point in the past, you worked full-time. And that full-time work is or was in a retirement eligible position. And that is what made you an Acera member automatically because of the employer that you work for. You work for one of these 6 public agencies in Alameda County. So Alameda County, Alameda Health System, Superior Court of California, First 5, the Alameda Housing Authority, and the Livermore Area Recreation and Parks District. And that's the Alameda County Housing Authority. So if you work for one of these public employers in that full-time retirement eligible position, you automatically are granted Acera membership. And as an Acera member, you contribute to Acera's fund with every paycheck. So if you look at your paycheck in the pre-tax deductions column, you'll see a little amount coming out of your paycheck, every single paycheck, and it goes into Acera's fund. And additionally, your employer also contributes to Acera's fund on your behalf. Okay, so we don't just want that money to sit around and collect dust. We want to earn some interest on that money. And so we invest your employee contributions and the employer contributions in a diverse set of investments all over the world, and we earn quite a bit of interest on those investments. And it's these 3 sources of income that give us this pool of money that we call Acera's fund. Okay, so why are we collecting this money and why are we investing it? What are we going to do with it? Well, you are, while you work in your full-time retirement eligible position, you're earning credit toward retirement while you work. And you're earning credit in 3 different categories, which I will talk about when we talk about the retirement formula. So as you work, you're earning more and more and more credit toward retirement. Then at some point in the future, you stop working and you retire. And that's when you stop earning credit toward retirement and you start collecting the retirement that you've been earning your entire career. You will collect your retirement allowance every month for the rest of your life. You cannot outlive your Acera retirement. It's a really amazing and powerful benefit that you have because it's a guaranteed income for the rest of your life. So it's pretty amazing. Now you'll see I'm saying retirement allowance here. There's some synonymous terms. There's retirement allowance, pension allowance, pension benefit, retirement benefit. All of these are synonyms for the exact same thing, which is the monthly payment that you get on the last business day of the month, every month for the rest of your life, which is your Acera retirement benefit that you've earned by deferring some of your wages throughout your entire career and participating in Acera's defined benefit pension plan. Let me show you some pension milestones that you've probably, since you're getting ready for retirement and you're in the pre-retirement webinar, you've probably already passed some of these milestones, but let me familiarize you with them because it will help you understand some of the concepts that we talk about when I describe what benefit you can expect from Acera. So first off, we have your date of hire. This is the first day that they told you to show up to work. If you got hired right into your full-time retirement eligible position, or if you were working in some other capacity and then they promoted you into that retirement eligible position, this would be the first day in that position. Okay, what happens is for most people, 2 weeks goes by and the first day of your second pay period is your first day of membership in Acera. It's also known as your date of entry into Acera or your Acera date of entry. Now, there's a couple of our employers, I think it is the Housing Authority and Livermore Area Recreation and Parks District, if I'm not mistaken, that there is no 2-week gap and your first day of Acera membership is actually your date of hire. For everyone else, there's a 2-week gap, the first day of your second pay period, that's your first day of Acera membership. Okay, now, what happens when you become an Acera member, as soon as you become an Acera member, is that's when you start earning credit toward retirement. As soon as you're an Acera member. Okay, then what's going to happen is 5 years goes by. And once 5 years passes, you're considered vested in the retirement system. Vested it just kind of means guaranteed. So there are some vested benefits that you have access to in your Acera membership. So that means guaranteed benefits. And so after 5 years, that kind of grants you access to the guaranteed benefits. And so that's why they say that's your date when you're vested for the guaranteed benefits that happen at the 5-year mark. Okay, so after 5 years, at some point after that, you become eligible to retire, and it's through some combination of your years of service credit, so how many full-time years or the equivalent of full-time years that you have earned with Acera by working in your Acera eligible position, through some combination of that amount of years and your age will get you to retirement eligibility. And I will show you the different combinations in the second half of the presentation. But once you're eligible to retire, this is the first day that you can physically retire if you want. Many people do not do that. In fact, I think most people probably do not do that. And you can continue working and you can continue earning more and more credit toward retirement. So the next milestone would be your retirement date. That's the date that you choose to retire. And this is when you stop earning credit toward retirement and start collecting your lifetime retirement. There may be a few of you that terminate your employment and defer your retirement to a later date. And if that's the case, there would actually be another milestone in here for you that would say basically termination date, which is your last day on payroll. And then that would actually be when you stop earning credit toward retirement, and then you're retiring at a later date. But many of you will probably go straight from active work into retirement. And so that's why there would be no termination date milestone here for you. I mean, really, for everyone, there's the termination date milestone. The termination date is simply your last day on payroll. So For those of you going right into retirement, your termination date would just be the day before you retire. Okay, so you retire and you start collecting your retirement, and you collect it every month for the rest of your life until your death. That's when your retirement payments stop. And then there's another milestone here, because at the time of retirement, when you were filling out your retirement application, you had the opportunity, in many cases, to name a beneficiary for a continuance. So after your death, there could be a continuing payment that could happen every month until your beneficiary's death. And that's when your ACERA retirement benefits would stop. And we'll take a deep dive into all of that a little later on in the presentation. Okay, at this point, what I want to do is introduce you to a document, which is the retirement planning worksheet. And what you're seeing here is a screenshot of just one piece of that worksheet. There was a link in the email that was sent out to you in order for you to download the worksheet. But if you were unable to do that, no worries. Let me just change my screen share, and I'll show you where to obtain that worksheet. So let me start off with the homepage. This is acera.org. This is our homepage. You simply go under news and events, go down to retirement planning seminars. This may be where you enrolled in the seminar, or you found the recording for the seminar, and you just go down to webinar options, click pre-retirement webinar to open this accordion, and there is a PDF in here, which is the retirement planning worksheet. So you'll see that this is a 2-page worksheet. And what it is basically is it has a lot of fields in here that you can fill out. The concept here is this is kind of an additional takeaway from the pre-retirement webinar, where you're going to learn a lot of stuff about your particular membership with ACERA, a lot of different numbers about your particular membership with ACERA as we go along. And so this is a good place to record those numbers that you learn. And then later on, maybe in a few weeks or a few months or a few years, when you return and you try to kind of remember what you learned about your own membership in the pre-retirement webinar, you can refer to the worksheet. So you'll see that if you want to, you can fill out some dates for your career timeline, your tier. There's some fields here that will help you get an estimate. And then the back page talks about the limits on vacation compensation that we're allowed to include in your retirement allowance. And so we'll talk about all that. So if you want to, you can fill this out as we go along, or you can fill it out later. I recommend, if you're gonna, these are fillable fields. If you're gonna do it on your computer or your device, go ahead and download it. Click the download button, save it to your device, and then open it up, because that way you can save all of the numbers that you're recording. Alternatively, you just print it out, fill it out in pencil or pen. So let me switch back to the presentation. At this point in the presentation, if you want to, you can go ahead and fill in your ACERA entry date. If you don't happen to remember what it is, because it was a long time ago, but you remember like it's, January of 2003, you could just put that in. You'll notice it does say approximate dates up at the top. So you could just get close. If you do want to know what your exact ACERA entry date is, you can log into your account on our website and it will tell you your exact entry date. Okay, at this point also, if you want to fill in your projected retirement date because you happen to already have a date in mind, you can do that as well. You may want to pencil it in, because you may learn something during the presentation that may make you want to adjust your date a little bit back and forth. So we will talk about all of these different dates in the timeline as we go along. Let me tell you a little bit more about vesting. That concept, like I said, it means guaranteed. So once you reach the 5-year mark, you're guaranteed the vested benefits that happen with 5 years of service credit. And that includes the 5 years is the equivalent of, it's 5 full-time years of work, or the equivalent of 5 full-time years of work. Like if you did 10 years half-time, that would be like 5 full-time years. And that includes reciprocal work if you have reciprocity with another agency. And that gets you over the 5-year line for vesting. And then the guarantee, so vesting means guaranteed, the guarantee comes from state law. State law is what tells us how to run the pension system, tells us how to calculate the benefits, tells us how to do everything. And that, the state law is what guarantees your pension. And the guaranteed benefits are the monthly retirement allowance that you will receive every month for the rest of your life once you retire, an annual cost of living adjustment, also known as a COLA, which is a percentage increase annually to your retirement allowance. And we'll talk more about that later. There's also a $1,000 lump sum death benefit, which is kind of like a basic, small burial benefit. There are some other death benefits associated with the 5 different retirement allowance options, and we'll talk about that when we talk about the 5 retirement allowance options. Okay, so regarding the vesting date, if you want to, if you work full-time and you know what your SERA entry date is, or approximately, you can just add 5 years and then put in your vesting date. The vesting date isn't super important. And if you happen to already know you have more than 5 years, I wouldn't even worry about it, but it's just an optional thing here, just to help you remember that it happens at 5 years. Let me tell you about your tier. You all are in one of these tiers. And the difference between the tiers is that we calculate your retirement benefits slightly differently among the different tiers. Okay, so it's good to know what tier you're in, because that will help you understand which information pertains to you during the presentation. First of all, how to find which timeline you're in. If you're a safety member, you're going to look at the bottom timeline. And safety members are sheriff's deputies and probation officers, and there may be other types of sworn officers in there that I'm not familiar with, but those are safety members. Everyone who's not a safety member is a general member. Okay, so if you're a general member, you would look at the top timeline. Now, if you're a general member who works for the housing authority, sorry about that, you're going to look at this timeline here, the second one down. If you're a general member who works for Livermore Area Recreation and Parks District, you're going to look at the third timeline down. Now, the way the tiers are determined is based on your date of entry into ACERA. Remember, this is your first day of ACERA membership. So if you entered ACERA before the cutoff date for the earlier tier, that would put you in the earlier tier. So for example, if you entered as a general member into ACERA before July 1st, 1983, that would put you in tier 1. If you entered ACERA July 1st, 1983, all the way up to December 31st, 2012, that would have put you in tier 2. If you entered ACERA January 1st, 2013 and beyond, that would put you in tier 4. Okay, and that's the same with all of the different timelines, the tier 4 cutoff date. Now you'll notice that for the Housing Authority and LARPD, there's a different cutoff date for tier 1 to transitioning into tier 2. For LARPD, there's a tier 3 that the other employers don't have, and there is no tier 2. And for the safety members, there's 3 different tier 2s, tier 2B, 2C, and 2D. And if you entered ACERA October 17th, 2010, all the way up to December 12th, 2012, you had the choice between tier 2C and tier 2D that you had to make within 45 days of establishing your safety membership. If you don't remember which one you chose, you can log into your account on our website and it will tell you exactly which tier you're in. And in fact, that's true for everyone. If you want to have our database tell you what tier you're in, you can just go ahead and log into your account on our website and it will tell you exactly which tier you're in. Okay, so those are the tiers. Now, if you want to, you can go ahead and mark your tier in on the retirement planning worksheet in the tier section. Let's talk about estimating your retirement benefits. So moving on to the next section in the checklist, now that we've established a few different pension basics. It's going to be really helpful to me and also to you if you understand how it's going to be really helpful to you in understanding what your specific retirement allowance is going to be that you can expect. It's going to be really helpful if you understand the pension formula that ACERA uses to calculate your retirement allowance. Now there's some math here, so don't worry. I'm about to walk you through this, and it's actually a pretty simple concept. Okay. And let me just, I see a couple of questions just popped up. Let me take those, let me look at those real fast. Okay, there is a question. For the service credit, is there a limit or maximum number of years of service credit to use in calculating for the retirement allowance? For example, if you have 35 years of service credit or 40 years, is there a limit, an upper limit on how much service credit can be included in this calculation? And the answer is no. We'll put as much service credit as you've earned in the calculation, with the caveat that there is a limit on how much your monthly retirement allowance can be, which is limited to your highest average monthly salary. So your retirement allowance cannot be more than your highest average monthly salary. And I'll talk in a few minutes about how we calculate that. So your limit is 100% of your highest average monthly salary calculation. So there does reach a point with some people after, and it could be 35, 40 plus years of service credit, where earning more and more service credit doesn't help you because you've already achieved 100% income replacement by your, which means your monthly retirement allowance is exactly the same as your highest average monthly salary. So working more doesn't help you. So that's kind of the bad news, that working more doesn't help you. The good news is that you've achieved 100% salary replacement, and you probably don't have to work anymore unless you really love your job, and so you can just go ahead and retire. Okay, and the question is, can you please tell me again where the planning form is located? I'm looking and can't find it. Yep, absolutely. Let me go back to our website. So from our homepage, you go under the news and events menu. And what you're looking for is retirement planning seminars, because you're in a retirement planning seminar right now. You're in the pre-retirement seminar. So you click on retirement planning seminars under news and events. You scroll a little bit down and you find pre-retirement webinar, which is the webinar that you're in. You open the accordion and there's the retirement planning worksheet right there. It's a PDF. Okay, so there's a question. I have to leave work. Oh, because you work certain hours, do we have seminars after 3 p.m. For those who work different hours? We don't, but our seminars are always at 9 in the morning. But a couple of things on that. One is that often your manager, because this is part of your benefits package, they will, if you talk to them and you say that this is training for your Acera benefits, they will often let you do it during work hours. And if not, we do have a lot of videos out on the website. So I'm on the retirement planning seminars page. And if you scroll down to past webinar recordings and you open up pre-retirement seminars, you can see that there's a whole bunch of recordings actually in there. And it's pretty much the exact same seminar every time. And they're all YouTube links. So you can go out and watch them on YouTube. So yeah, sorry, we don't have the webinars at other times. Feel free to email us questions. If you have questions about what you're watching in the video, or additionally, you could just leave comments in the YouTube video. You could ask questions in the YouTube video and we'll get a notification of that. Okay, so let me help you understand this pension formula. When you go to retire, you are going to get, as your pension allowance, your monthly retirement allowance for the rest of your life, you are going to get a percentage of your highest salary for each year of service that you worked during your career. Okay. So this sentence is describing what's happening in this this multiplication equation here. you're getting a percentage of your highest salary for each year of service that you work, okay? Let me put some numbers in here and it'll help explain it a little bit better. So let's say that, for example, the percentage of your highest salary that you're going to get for each year of service that you work is 2%. Let's also say, for the sake of this example, that you worked during your career for 20 full-time years, or the equivalent of 20 full-time years. So you earned 20 years of service credit, okay? What that means is you're going to get 2% of your highest salary for each individual one of those 20 years, okay? So 2% plus 2% plus 2% plus 2% for each one of those 20 years. So really what it means is we're going to multiply the 20 years times the 2% to get 40%, okay? Because 2% for each one of the 20 years is 40%, 40% of your highest average monthly salary. Okay, to give you some more numbers to further illustrate this, let's say, for example, that the highest amount of money that you made per month on average while you were working in your job was $5,000. Okay, so this is what you're earning every month on average, $5,000 while you're working. Now, we have determined that you're getting 2% of your highest salary for each one of the 20 years, which is 40%. That means that you're going to get 40% of the $5,000. So we simply multiply those together, and that means that your retirement allowance that you would receive every month for the rest of your life would be $2,000, because $2,000 is 40% of your $5,000 working salary. This percentage here is also known as your income replacement percentage, which means that you're replacing your 40% of your working salary with your retirement allowance. So your working salary is $5,000, 40% of that is $2,000. So you're achieving 40% income replacement with your ACERA retirement allowance. Let me talk about each one of those numbers in a little more detail. Okay, so we'll talk about the age factor percentage first. Then we'll talk about the service credit, and then we'll talk about how we calculate the highest average monthly salary. And this will help you really get a handle on what your monthly retirement allowance is going to be, and perhaps how you can maximize that monthly retirement allowance for life in the little time that you have left leading up to your retirement. So let me talk about the age factor percentage first. Okay. So the question is, which percentage of your highest salary are you going to get for each year of service? Because it's not necessarily going to be 2%. That was just an example that I was giving you. What it really is going to be is based on your age at retirement and your tier. So this is one of the places that your tier makes a difference, and there's a difference between the different tiers. What you're seeing on the slide is a sample age factor percentage chart, okay? And what you're going to look at is just the column for your tier. So if you're a general member in tier 2, you're just going to look at the general tier 2 column. If you're a safety member in tier 2B, you would just look at the safety tier 2B column, so on and so forth. And then you just forget about all the other columns because that's the only one that pertains to you. So the way this works is how we determine which number to put in the formula for you is we look at what age you are when you retire, and we look at the set of numbers in your tier, and we match your age to that number in your tier. So for example, if you're a general tier 2 member and you retire at age 60, we're going to come down here when we're having to do this calculation, we're going to go to age 60. We're going to come over here to tier 2. I see that it's 1.92%. This 1.92% is the percentage, if you're a general member, tier 2 member retiring at age 60, that you are going to get as you're going to get 1.92% of your highest salary for each year of service. Okay, 1.92% is the number that we put in the retirement formula for you. We multiply it by the service credit and the salary that determines your retirement allowance. You'll notice a few things about the chart. One is that the numbers get bigger the older you are when you retire, which means that the longer you wait to retire, you get older and older and older, you get a higher and higher age factor percentage, okay? You'll also notice that the numbers stop increasing at a certain age. Another way to say that is that there's a maximum age factor percentage that you can get for your tier. So for example, Tier 2 members at age 65 could get a maximum of 2.43% in the retirement formula. If you retire at 66 or 67, you still get the 2.43%. So if you retire older than the maximum age, you get whatever the maximum age factor percentage is for your tier. And you'll see each one of the different tiers has a different maximum age and different maximum age factor percentage. Okay, so you may notice another thing about the chart, and that is I skipped a bunch of the ages. And that is because there are actually so many incremental increases that they don't all fit on the chart because the increments are in quarter years. So if this were the full, real, actual age factor percentage chart, it would say 50, 50 and a quarter, 50 and a half, 50 and 3/4, 51, 51 and a quarter, and so on and so forth. And there's actually a slight incremental increase in the age factor percentage for each one of those quarter years that you age, that you get older. And it's based on your birthday. So if your birthday is January 15th, to give you an example, 3 months after that is April 15th. So you pass that day and you don't retire yet, you go up one notch in the age factor chart. You get a slightly higher age factor percentage. July 15th comes around, you still haven't retired. Well, you go up another notch in the age factor chart. There's another incremental increase. October 15th, back to January 15th, back to April 15th. Every time you pass one of those days and get 3 months older, you get a slightly higher age factor percentage, okay? And then whatever quarter year age you are when you retire, that's the number that we pull out of the chart for you. If you want to see the full set of age factor percentages, you can find that out on our website if you go to acera.org/age, or you can simply search for age factor percentages, or I'd probably age in the search field at acera.org, and it will take you right there. Okay, I think that's the last thing I want to say about the age factor percentages. Let me pause for 1 second and try to figure out why the cursor keeps disappearing. See if I can fix that. On the computer I usually use, there's a little menu that helps you set that. Well, I guess I'll just live with it. I have to move the cursor around every time to get it to reappear. Okay, oops. Let's start from where we left off. Sorry about that. Thanks for bearing with me here. Okay, so we talked about the age factor percentage. Let's talk about the years of service credit. Okay, and there's a question that just popped up. Are the age factors percentages current? Like, are these numbers current in the formula? Absolutely. And in fact, they're always current because they never change. These are the age factor percentages that are associated with your tier that are written into the state law that determine your tier. So these never change. So what your tier is associated with a set of age factor percentages that are basically set in stone and don't change. And you don't change tiers as long as you maintain your Acera membership. So these are the age factor percentages that you can expect. And then there's a question, can you show how we calculate the pension formula again? Sure. Now that you have seen the age factor percentages, it's probably helpful to see an explanation of that again. Okay, so you are going to get as your monthly retirement allowance, what it's going to be, that monthly payment that you're going to get every month for the rest of your life, is going to be a percentage of your highest working salary that you're earning as you work for each one of the years of service credit that you work. So you work 20 years, you earn 20 years of service credit, or you work 18 years full-time and then 4 years half-time. We take the 4 years half-time, make it into 2 full-time years, add it to the 18 full-time years to get you to 20 years. So it's the number of full-time years you have or the equivalent of the full-time years. Plus, there will be some decimal places in there because you're not going to work exactly 20 years. You'll probably work 20, 0.57642 because you're going to retire, somewhere halfway through the year, and you're going to get all these service credit all the way up until you stop working, all the fractions of a day, basically, in a week up until you stop working. But just to give you this very basic example, if the percentage of your highest average, if the percentage of your highest salary that you're going to get for each year of service is 2%, and you work for 20 years, meaning you earn 20 years of service credit with Acera, that means you're going to get 2% of your highest average monthly salary for each one of those 20 years, which means that you're going to get 40% of your highest average monthly salary because we're multiplying those two together. 2% times 20 is 40%. Now then, now we know what percentage of your salary you are going to get as your retirement allowance. Then we do a calculation for your highest average monthly salary, and I'll show you that in just a few minutes. And let's say, for example, it's $5,000. This is what you're earning on average every month while you're still working. 40% of $5,000 is $2,000, and that becomes your retirement allowance for the rest of your life that you get every month, plus cost of living increases. So that's how we do that calculation. Okay, so let me tell you about the service credit number in the retirement formula. You start earning service credit when you enter Acera. So on your first day of Acera membership is when you start earning service credit. And you are going to earn service credit all the way up until you retire if you go straight from active work into retirement. Now, like I said earlier, some of you are going to terminate your employment earlier and not go straight into retirement, and you're going to defer your retirement to a later date, in which case there would be another milestone here, which is your termination date, and there would be a gap between those. Otherwise, if you're going straight into retirement, your termination date would be right before the day that you retire. But the bottom line is that you earn service credit while you're working. Okay, so you're earning service credit starting when you enter Acera and all the way up until you stop working your job. And so you earn service credit during your regular work hours. And also, you earn service credit during a bunch of different earned leave times. So those are your earned vacation leave, sick leave, management leave, comp time, holidays, floating holidays. Those are all types of leave time that you're already earning you're already earning service credit while you're out on those leave times. So those do not count against you for the purposes of earning service credit toward retirement. So when you're out on your earned vacation, you're earning service credit toward retirement. It's a pretty good deal. Now, there are some types of time where you're not earning service credit. That is, anytime you go out on leave without pay, you do not earn service credit. Now, this next one is where you purchase additional vacation on top of your earned vacation. So you're earning some vacation and then you want more, so you purchase additional vacation. Some of our employers will allow you to do that, some of them won't. So when you go out on that purchased vacation, you mark that on your timesheet, you do not earn service credit during that time, okay? Now, so like you go out on a week of purchased vacation, you mark that on your timesheet, you're not earning service credit during that time. That's kind of the bad news. The good news is that a week of purchased vacation here or there is not going to make a difference, in comparison to all of the service credit that you earn. It's going to be like, a few dollars or a few pennies even. Less of a retirement allowance that you're going to get. So I would not stress out about that. Okay, now there's another type of time, which is sold vacation. This is where you take your earned vacation and instead of going out on vacation, you sell it back to your employer for cash. That will not give you any service credit. Okay, so You don't earn any service credit for that. Now, you may earn salary credit for that when we calculate the salary part of the formula, and we'll talk about that in detail in just a minute. So hang on to those questions. And also, you do not earn service credit during overtime, on-call time, or standby time. Okay. Now, I'm just going to cover this really briefly just to remind you of this concept, or maybe introduce you to the concept if you've never heard of it. We won't take a deep dive into it in this presentation, but I just wanted to let you know about this concept, which is purchasing service credit. There are some types of time that are eligible for you to purchase. And if you purchase service credit, what it does is it increases your amount of service credit that we calculate in the formula for you. Because the formula is a multiplication, the higher any of those three numbers are, the higher your retirement allowance is going to be. So the bottom line is that purchasing service credit makes your retirement allowance go up. Getting older, retiring with a higher and higher age factor makes your retirement allowance go up. Getting higher and higher salaries makes your retirement allowance go up. Okay. But since we're talking about service credit, let me tell you about making these service credit purchases. So some examples of the types of time that are eligible for you to purchase service credit are part-time work that you did for your employer before you were hired into your full-time retirement eligible position. Now, I'm not talking about contract work. I'm not talking about working for a temporary agency or an employment agency. This is just plain old part-time work that you worked for your employer. That is purchasable once you achieved your SIR membership with your full-time retirement eligible position. TAP time, which stands for the county's temporary assignment pool. It's kind of their in-house temporary agency. That time is actually purchasable, all of that TAP time. Any project work, or there's a few other different descriptions of work that you may have done for your employer before your full-time retirement eligible position. A lot of those times are purchasable. The 2 weeks between your date of hire and your date of entry into a SARA is purchasable. Any unpaid leave that you go out on, that falls into these three categories, which is unpaid medical leave for your medical condition, not a family member's medical condition, disability leave that you go out on, and military leave that you go out on during your active membership. And I'm not talking about prior military service. This is, you actively have a job for one of our 6 employers, you go on military leave and you return from that leave, then that becomes purchasable, okay? The same thing with the medical and disability. When you return from a leave and you go back to work, then it becomes purchasable. And the medical leave has a limit of 1 year of unpaid medical leave per instance of being out on unpaid medical leave. And then you can buy that amount of time. There's also redeposits of prior memberships, which means that you used to be an SARA member in the past. You quit your job, you went and did something else, then you came back to work for one of our employers. But whenever you quit, you had taken a refund of your contribution account, all the contributions that you had paid into the system. Now you're back working here again, and you want to get that service credit back from that original membership. Well, you can redeposit the money that you took out, and you can get that service credit back, and it's called a redeposit. Excuse me. Additionally, other California public agency work, if you used to work for another public agency in California and you're not eligible for their pension because you took a refund from their pension, you can buy that time as a SARA service credit. So those are just some examples. There's also a redeposit for community property if you got divorced or you dissolve your state registered domestic partnership and your ex-spouse or partner took part of your SARA account, so part of your funds, and then they take a refund from their account. You can put that equivalent amount of money back to get the service credit back that they took with them. So like I said, I'm not going to take a deep dive into service credit purchases in this webinar, but I do talk about it at length in the new employee / mid-career webinar. And we do have recordings of that out on our website. So just going back to that retirement planning seminars page under news and events, retirement planning seminars, you just scroll down to the past webinar recordings and you can see that there are a bunch of, you got to close pre-retirement seminars and open new employee mid-career seminars. And you can see that there's a bunch of them in there, and you can hear the full explanation of purchasing service credit. And when you do that, just fast forward till you see this slide, and then it's the exact same slide, and then that's where the discussion of that starts in that video. Question on the board, does this include pregnancy leave? That would count under unpaid medical leave. So if if you're pregnant or you're out on maternity leave and you have already gone through your leave balances, and then you're just out on unpaid medical leave, then that unpaid medical leave portion becomes purchasable when you return from that leave. Now, the part where you are using your leave balances, you already earned service credit for that. Because like I said, when you're out on sick leave or vacation leave or all these types of leave, you're already earning service credit for that. So just the unpaid medical leave portion is purchasable. Okay, the last thing I'll talk about regarding service credit is what happens to your unused sick leave that you still have on the books when you retire. So what happens to it is, if you go straight from active work into retirement, which means that your last day on payroll and your retirement date are on 2 consecutive days. Another way to say that is that your last day on payroll is the day before your retirement date. Your last day on payroll is the date that you put on your letter of resignation to your employer, and that's when they mark you in their system as the last date that you're on payroll. Your retirement date is the date that you write on your retirement application. We'll revisit this concept when we talk about choosing your retirement date. But I just want to show you that if you go straight into retirement, there's no gap, so you're not becoming a deferred member where you're stopping work and then deferring your retirement to a later date. We will convert your unused sick leave to service credit, okay? So here's how we do that. We take your sick leave balance and we will convert it up to a cap. There's a cap on how much sick leave is convertible. And the cap is written in your memorandum of understanding, which is what MOU stands for. I think all the MOUs are online. If you've never seen it or you want access to it, you can ask your human resources department or perhaps your payroll clerk. And they may even know off the top of their head what the sick leave cap is for your MOU. Okay, so the amount of sick leave that you have left on the books when you retire, up to the amount that we are allowed to convert, what we do is we divide it by 2, and that is the amount of additional service credit we give you. So you basically get half of your sick leave as additional service credit. To give you an example, a lot of the MOUs have a cap of 125 days of sick leave that is convertible. So let's say that you have 130 days of sick leave on the books when you retire, and you have one of the MOUs that caps it at 125 days. Well, what happens is anything above 125 days you lose. So that extra 5 days, that disappears. We can't do anything with that. Then we take the 125 days that we are allowed to convert based on your MOU, we divide it by 2, and that gives us 62.5 additional days of service credit. Now, these are not calendar days, unless you are somebody that works 7 days a week, which you probably are not, because I don't imagine that there's anybody that works 7 days a week. But these are business days. So 62.5 days is about 12 plus work weeks, which is about a quarter year. So you would get an additional quarter year of service credit in this example if we converted 125 days of sick leave to service credit for you. And I get the question, does this push my retirement date farther out? It does not. Your retirement date is your retirement date. The only thing that this sick leave conversion does is it increases the amount of service credit that we are putting in the retirement formula for you. So your amount of service credit in this example would go up by a quarter year. That's all that does. So it increases the service credit number and it gives you a higher retirement allowance because you have more service credit in the formula when we do the calculation. Okay, so I told you about the age factor percentage. I told you about the years of service credit. Let me give you some details about how we calculate the highest average monthly salary. This will help you further understand what retirement allowance you can expect every month for the rest of your life when you retire. So when you go to retire, and we have to do this calculation, we're going to need to we're going to need to calculate this number, highest average monthly salary. The way we do it is our software, our pension software that has all of your payroll records in it, will find your period of highest pay from your entire career, your period of highest consecutive pay. The terminology that we use for this period of highest pay, we call it your final compensation period. For tiers 1 and 3, if you're in tiers 1 and 3, your final compensation period will consist of your highest consecutive 26 biweekly or 12 monthly pay periods. So if you're in, and it depends on whether you're paid biweekly or monthly. For tiers 2 and 4, your final compensation period will consist of your highest consecutive 78 biweekly or 36 monthly pay periods. So essentially, for tiers 1 and 3, your final compensation period is your highest consecutive 1 year of pay from any point in your career. For tiers 2 and 4, it's your highest consecutive 3 years of pay from any point in your career. Now, for the vast majority of people, you make the highest rate of pay at the end of your career. So it's usually your last year or your last 3 years of pay that we're looking at, but not always. If you made more money at some point earlier in your career, that's the period that our software will look at to determine your final compensation period. Okay, so our goal with this is to find for you what you made on average per month during this period of highest pay. This is your highest average monthly salary. So it's a pretty simple calculation. All we do is we take the total dollars that you made during your final compensation period. So during this highest year of pay, or the total dollars you made during the highest 3 years of pay, and we simply divide it by the number of months in that period to get an average. So divided by 12 or 36, and that gives us your highest average monthly salary over that final compensation period. This is what you made on average per month during each one of the 36 months in the 3-year final compensation period, for example. Now, what types of pay are we looking at when we're doing the calculation? Well, the first one is obvious. We're looking at your base pay, of course. And for all of these pay types I'm about to show you, we're looking at gross pay before any deductions are taken out whatsoever. So your base pay is, of course, included in there. Now, there may be some other pay codes that we can include in there and will include if they count toward this. Sometimes these are known as footnotes. There are usually other types of pay based on your different skills that you may have or different education levels. I can't tell you off the top of my head whether your pay code will count for this or not. Excuse me, because there are like 1,000 different pay codes. The way that you can determine it for yourself is you go to acera.org/pay codes. In fact, why don't I just switch the share and I'll show you that page. I'll show you how to navigate there. Okay, so from any page on our website, go under the employers tab. So it's the third one in employers. And you'll see that the third selection down is pay codes. So you go to employers, pay codes. You scroll down and you'll see that there's a PDF for each of our employers, and you click on your employer. If you're in work for Alameda County, you click there. And you'll see that there's a list of all the pay codes. It's by number and by name. And you'll see based on your tier, it says, is it pensionable? Yes or no. That means, is it included as pay for the purposes of calculating your highest average monthly salary? So you look at which tier you're in, and then you scroll down, find your pay code and see yes or no, whether it's counted in this or not. The one pay code that I do know that never counts toward calculating your salary is overtime. That never counts. Okay, now I'm about to show you 2 more bullet points. And these 2 bullet points are the last 2 types of pay that can be included as salary for the purposes of calculating your highest average monthly salary. These apply only to tiers 1 and 2. This does not apply to tier 4, and in fact, does not apply to tier 3, I've learned, because for all you tier 3 members who work for Livermore Area Recreation and Parks District, you're not allowed to sell vacations. So we're not allowed to include cash for vacation as part of your salary. Okay, so for the rest of you, tiers 1 and 2, what this is that Vacation sales is where you sell vacation back to your employer while you're still employed and you get cash for it. And vacation cash out is that you have vacation that you've earned, your earned vacation left over on the books when you stop working and or retire. You haven't used it yet, and so they will pay you for it. They will compensate you for it because you hadn't taken it when you stopped working. They'll put more money in your last paycheck to compensate you for that. And if you are compensated for these two types of pay, these can count toward your highest average salary. That can be included. So tier 3 and 4 members, we are going to talk about this for 10 or 15 minutes because people have a lot of questions. So I just go ahead and explain the whole thing. You can take a little bit of a snooze if you want. Sorry about that. Yeah, I like to, if I don't explain this in detail, people ask all the questions about it anyway, so I have to explain it anyway. So I might as well just show you a bunch of slides on it that help illustrate it graphically. Okay, so here's how this concept works. Here's the idea. You earn vacation while you work. And sometimes you go out on the vacation, and which is great. You get to go out on a vacation. Now, sometimes you don't, and you may do one of two other things. You may sell vacation back to your employer. Some of our employers will allow you to do that. And this is while you're still employed for cash. Or you may simply have vacation left over at the time that you stop working and or retire. So the selling is called, while you're still employed, is of course called vacation sale or vacation sell, and the having it left over on the books is called vacation cash out or vacation payoff. Now we're only looking at earned vacation that you were compensated for during your final compensation period, okay? And the vacation cash out is only going to count if your final compensation period is at the end of your career. Otherwise, if it's at some other point, then we would only be looking at vacation sales that you made during that earlier final compensation period. But I'll talk in general as if your final compensation period is at the end of your career, because it is for almost everyone, okay, for the vast majority of people. But do remember, if it's earlier for you, if you're not making the highest rate at the end of your career, then we're not talking about the cash out part for you, okay? Now, so if you're compensated for this earned vacation, either through vacation sales or vacation cash out during the final compensation period, what we're going to look at is a total of vacation sales and cash out. This is your total vacation compensation that occurred during the final compensation period, okay? The idea here is that if you are compensated for your earned vacation during this compensation period, this period of highest pay that we're looking at to calculate your highest average monthly salary, if you're compensated for your vacation, that means that your total salary that you earned during the final compensation period is a little bit higher. If your total salary during the final compensation period is a little bit higher, that means your average salary over the months of your final compensation period is a little bit higher. If your average salary is higher, the highest average monthly salary is one of the multipliers in the retirement formula. If that number is bigger, when we multiply it out, that means your retirement allowance goes up. It's a little bit higher. So the bottom line that I'm trying to illustrate here is that getting compensated for your earned vacation, either through vacation sales or vacation payoff, increases your retirement allowance. This is one of the ways that I was referring to earlier in the presentation when I was saying you might learn something that will increase your retirement allowance a little bit leading up to retirement. Now, when I say a little bit, how much do I mean? Well, this chart illustrates the amount of increase that is possible. These are approximate increase percentages, so it's not necessarily going to be exactly this percentage, but it will be probably something close to that. So if you're in tier 2, to give you an example, and a SARA includes 4 weeks of vacation compensation as salary for the purposes of calculating your retirement allowance in your retirement calculation, that will increase your monthly retirement allowance that you'll receive every month for the rest of your life. It will increase it by 2.6% immediately at the time of retirement. It's baked into the retirement calculation. So your retirement allowance at the start of your retirement will be 2.6% higher than it would have been had you not been compensated for the vacation. and it will be that larger amount every month for the rest of your life, plus cost of living increases. Okay, so you can begin to see why people are interested in this topic and have a lot of questions about it, because you get a little boost starting at the beginning of your retirement, and you can see that the numbers go up more and more the more vacation compensation we are able to include as salary for calculating your retirement. And you can see for tier one, it's actually an accelerated increase because of the 1 year final compensation period versus the 3 year final compensation period. Okay, so you'll see that I have it marked out to, it goes all the way up to a 7.7% boost. There's not very many people that can get this high these days because of the limits on this, which I'm about to show you. The vast majority of people, it tops out at about a 5% increase. Okay, so when I say limits, what I mean is in the law, in the state law that tells us how to calculate your retirement and how to run the pension system in general, there is a cap on how much vacation compensation a SARA is allowed to include as salary for the purposes of calculating your retirement. You'll see the word must here, okay? The reason I wrote must, that a SARA must include, is because we have to include it. It's your compensation that you have received. So it's basically your pay. This amount of money that you're being compensated for your earned vacation is considered salary for the purposes of calculating your retirement. And so we have to include it. And the reason I'm kind of emphasizing that point is because some people from the outside who don't have pensions, they will see this and they'll kind of have a negative feeling about it. And but we have to do this. And so if you are earning compensation that must be included as salary, what I need to do is explain to you exactly how it works. I need to explain to you the ins and outs of how this works, because this is a lifetime pension that you are looking forward to and that you are planning out your life for. So you need to know what to expect. So I just need to go ahead and explain all of this to you. So that's why we go through all these slides, and that's why we have this whole explanation. But don't worry about those negative people, because this is just how the system works. This is how the pension system works, and this is how the law works. Okay. Now, I'm going to talk to first the Alameda Health System employees, and what you're seeing here is a piece of the retirement planning worksheet. And this is the section for Alameda Health System employees. This is on page 2. The page 2 of the retirement planning worksheet is devoted to helping you understand the limits of vacation compensation that we are allowed to include as salary for calculating your retirement. Okay, so Alameda Health System employees, the limit is calculated a little bit differently than everyone else. So I'll talk to the other people who work for the other employees second. Okay. For Alameda Health System employees, you need to know one number. That number is how much PTO you earn per pay period, also known as paid time off, which of course is how Alameda Health System does it. It's a combination of your sick leave and vacation leave, basically. But it's all one pay code. So on your pay stubs, I believe, it tells you how much PTO you earn per pay period. So all you need to do on your worksheet is put that number in this field. The example I'm showing you here, this person earns 6.7692 hours of PTO per pay period. So you put that in the field. Then you need to do a simple multiplication. If you're in tier 1, you multiply that number by 13. That gives you your limit of vacation compensation in hours that we can use as salary for calculating your retirement. For tier 2, all you need to do is multiply that number by 39, and that gives you your limit in hours. Okay. There is one exception for Alameda Health System employees who are part of the UAPD union. You have a flat limit that you all have for this vacation compensation. If you're in tier 1, it is 360 hours. 120 hours of PTO. For tier 2, it's 360 hours of PTO. Okay. Otherwise, you need to do the calculation. So now Alameda Health System employees, you know what the limit in hours is of how much vacation compensation we're allowed to include as salary for calculating your retirement. Okay, so for the county and other employers, I think there's 2 other employers that that allow this. What you need to know is 2 numbers. You need to know how much vacation you earn per year, and you need to know, secondly, how much vacation you're allowed to sell per year, also known as earned and payable. So the amount that you're allowed to sell per year is the payable number. If you don't know that, you can ask your payroll clerk, and they often know what the limit is. And for a lot of people, it's 2 weeks. They'll let you sell 2 weeks of your vacation per year. But sometimes it's 1, sometimes it's 3. I'm not sure if anyone is allowed to sell 4 weeks anymore. But what you do is you put that number in the field, in these 2 fields. And so for tier 1 members, you're just going to fill out the first column. This person in this example earns 5 weeks of vacation per year. So they put that in the earned row. And this person is allowed to sell 2 weeks of that vacation per year. That's their employer's rule. And so they put 2 in that field here. Now for tier 2 members, you need to fill out the rest, the other 2 columns, because we actually need to know how much vacation you earned in each one of the 3 years of your 3-year final compensation period, okay? Often, they'll all be the same numbers. So if they're all the same numbers, that's totally fine. In this example, it's all the same. So this person earned 5 weeks of vacation each one of those 3 years of their final compensation period. And it's how much vacation you're earning at the end of the final compensation period. So some people, you may be earning 4 weeks, and then you enter the last year of your final compensation period and you're earning 4, but then you earn 21 years of seniority and you start earning 5 weeks, and you can just go ahead and put a 5 in here. If the payable number changes because contracts are renegotiated during that 3 years, you can put that in here as well. Okay, now what you do is you're going to need to take these numbers and you're going to need to use the calculator out on our website to determine what your limit is. So let me show you that calculator. One way to get to the calculator, and it says this on the worksheet, is to type into your browser acera.org/vacation, and it will take you right to the calculator, but I'll show you how to navigate to it. Okay, so you go under, here's our homepage. You go under members, you go under understanding your Acera benefits. You scroll down to how your retirement is calculated. And then you scroll down that page past the first few sections to the section entitled Understanding How Unused Vacation Leave Affects Your Retirement Allowance. Okay, let me show you what happens if you just type in acera.org/vacation. So it takes you right to that same spot, okay? Now what you do is you open up this first accordion here. So it's for Alameda County Courts and Housing Authority employees. And you'll see a calculator in here. Okay, you put in which tier you're in, and then what you're going to do is put in how many weeks of vacation you earn per year. In the example I was giving you, that person earns 5 weeks of vacation per year. So I'm going to delete the zeros. I'm going to put in 5 weeks of vacation. Then I'm going to select from the drop-down how many weeks of vacation I'm allowed to sell per year. In this case, it's 2 weeks. And so it tells you what your limit is in weeks. If you are in tier 2 and you select tier 2, then it will open up further and let you put in more numbers for the other 2 years. So I'm going to go ahead and put in 5, earn 5, 5, and 5, and I'm allowed to sell 2, 2, and 2, and it gives you a running total. Now, this is actually a really basic calculator. All it's doing is it's comparing the 2 numbers for each year, and you get the lesser one, and it adds them together. So 2 is the lesser number in each one of the years, so it adds up to 2 and 2 and gives you 6. So it's pretty basic. If you want to do it in your head, you can do it in your head. You don't have to come out to the calculator if you understand how that works. Okay, so in that example I was giving you, this is a tier 2 example. their limit from the calculator is 6 weeks. Okay. So now what this person can do now that they know their limit is they can think, do I have any interest at all in how the vacation compensation will increase my retirement allowance? If so, maybe I can think about how I might be compensated for my vacation and what that effect that will have on increasing my retirement allowance. So if I'm interested in maximizing this, what should I do? The simplest way to do it is that you simply want to have the same number as your limit of vacation on the books when you retire. So in this example, this person has 6 weeks of vacation still on the books when they stop working and retire. They don't worry about selling any vacation while they're still employed. So they sell 0. They have 6 weeks of vacation while on the books. 0 plus 6 is 6. And so they got right up to their limit of how much they actually were compensated for 6 weeks of vacation. So they got that cash that went into their bank account. And because they were compensated for the 6 weeks of vacation, and it was less than or exactly at how much we're allowed to include based on their individual limit, then we will include 6 weeks of vacation compensation as salary for the purposes of calculating their retirement allowance, which makes their retirement allowance go up. Let me give you a second example. A lot of people are in this situation. You earn 4 weeks per year, and you're allowed to sell 3 weeks per year, okay? Now, again, it's taking the lesser number of each one of these years, so it's gonna add up 3, 3, and 3. If you go out to the calculator, you'll see that it will give you a limit of 9. Now, the reason I'm showing you this example is because your employers all have except for Alameda Health System is different. All of the 3 employers that calculate this in weeks, they all have this limit where they will not cash you out for 2 times your annual accrual rate of vacation. So for example, this person earns 4 weeks of vacation per year. 2 times 4 is 8. They will not cash you out for more than 8 weeks. So that means that you can't get more than 8 weeks worth of compensation in the cash out. If you had 9 weeks on the books when you stopped working and transitioned into retirement, anything above 8 weeks, you would lose. It would just disappear. You would not get anything for it. You wouldn't get cash for it. You wouldn't get service credit for it. You definitely wouldn't get credit toward the salary for it. Okay. So in order to avoid losing that, if you're in this situation where you can't get up to the limit just from the cash out alone because of this 2 times your accrual rate rule, that's when you might want to think about selling vacation. So you just think about it ahead of time. You go ahead and sell the difference, 1 week of vacation, and the 1 week that you sold plus the 8 weeks that you have on the book when you retire gets you up to the 9-week limit in this example. Okay. Now, then I'll have people ask, well, what if I already sold a bunch of vacation? What do I do then? Okay. In this sticking with this same tier 2 example, this person sold a bunch of vacation during what's going to become their final compensation period, the last 3 years at the end of their career, the last 3 years of their highest pay. Okay. So you have a couple of options if you already sold vacation. Option number 1 is you can cash out the difference. So in this case, you know your limit is 9 just because you've done the calculator. You've sold a 5, so the difference between 5 and 9 is 4. And so you just cash out the difference. You have 4 weeks. You make sure that you have 4 weeks of vacation left on the books when you retire. The 5 that you sold and got the cash for that went into your bank account, plus the 4 that you cashed out at the time of retirement that also went into your bank account, that equals 9 weeks worth of vacation compensation. And so we will include all 9 of those weeks as compensation for calculating your retirement. Okay, now option number 2 is you can cash out more, and it's totally okay. So don't stress out about it. You just want to not cash out more than 2 times your accrual rate. So sticking with this example, 2 times their accrual rate of 4 is 8. So you don't want to cash out more than 8, but this person is cashing out exactly 8. That means that they were compensated for 5 plus 8. They were compensated for 5 weeks while they were still working and 8 weeks when they stopped working, for a total of 13 weeks of vacation compensation. Now, again, this is the law says that we are only allowed to include 9 weeks for this person, 9 weeks worth of vacation compensation. So that's what we'll do. We'll take 9 weeks worth of the 13 weeks and we will calculate that as salary for calculating your retirement. You still get all the money in your bank account. I keep stressing that because people will get confused and they'll think that they're like giving us the money for the vacation. No, that's not how it works. You're getting paid the money. You're getting compensated for your earned vacation. It's your salary that you are receiving that goes into your bank account. That allows us to do the calculation. We see you get paid in your payroll records in our pension software, and because you get paid this extra amount, that we include it as salary for calculating your retirement allowance. And the last thing I'll point out, and if you have questions, go ahead and start typing those in because there's usually a few questions on this when we finish this discussion. The last thing I'll point out is that for the tier 1 members, it's a lot less stressful for you because of the accelerated 1-year final compensation period. There's not any case where you need to sell vacation where you're gonna, I mean, unless you are really not taking vacation and you have like, we have more than 2 times your accrual rate on the books, you're gonna wanna go ahead and sell that or take the vacation. But there's no scenario where you need to sell vacation to get up to your limit. So all you need to do is just cash out your limit. For tier 2 members, because of the 3-year final compensation period, it's, can be a little more complicated. Okay, any questions on this? Sorry for all the complex discussions on this topic, but the rules, they're a little complex, but I'd like to, make sure that you all understand them. So I'd like to explain them thoroughly. Okay, so the question is, how do you know what your limit is for regular county employees? So good question. So all you do to figure out your limit is you need to know how much vacation you earn per year, and you need to know how much vacation you're allowed to sell per year. Now, for the vacation that you earn per year, you can ask your payroll clerk how much you earn, how many weeks of vacation you earn per year. You could also do the calculation yourself by looking at how much you earn per pay period, how many hours you earn per pay period, and multiplying it by the 26 pay periods to see how many weeks worth of vacation that is. I think off the top of my head, I know what do they call it? Seniority wise, I think the cutoffs are, if you've worked less than 5 years, you're earning 2 weeks of vacation per year. Between 5 and 15 years, you earn 3 weeks of vacation per year. I think between 15 and 21 years, you earn 4 weeks of vacation per year. And then once you hit 21 years, I think that's when you start earning 5 weeks of vacation per year. Okay, so that's how much you're earning. Then how much you're allowed to sell. And definitely check with your payroll clerk because I could be a little off on those cutoffs. The amount that you're allowed to sell is your employer's rule for how much they'll let you sell if you want to. And so it could be 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and your payroll clerk will know what the limit is for you. And so you simply put in the numbers on the worksheet, okay? If you're in tier 1, you just fill out the first column. If you're in tier 2, you fill out all 3 columns. And what you're putting in is how much vacation you earned for each one of the 3 years of, if you're in tier 2, of your period of highest pay, your final compensation period. And again, for most people, it's at the end of your career. So you just think about your last 3 years, how much vacation will I earn the last 3 years? You put that into the worksheet. Then you think about how much they'll allow you to sell. You put that in the worksheet. And then you go out to our website and go to acera.org/vacation. Sorry, that's my script. Where's the website? Okay. You go to acera.org/vacation and you go down to this calculator and you plug in all those numbers and it will tell you your limit. So that's how that works. Okay, there's a question, how do I find out in the system if I sold vacation within the 3 years? I don't remember. So one thing that you could do is you can go back, especially if you're a county employee, you can go back through your last 3 years of payroll records, and you can see if there's any sold vacation in there. Your payroll clerk might be able, there might be a faster way that they can figure that out for you. But that would be the two main ways to do that. And then if you want to know what 3 years they'll be looking at, I'll show you in just a few minutes how to figure out what the 3 years of the final compensation is going to be in the online tool that will help you get a benefit estimate. Let me change the share back to the presentation here. Okay, so Tier 3 and 4 members, welcome back. Thanks for bearing with us on that. So what you're looking at is a slide that is summarizing 4 different limits on your retirement benefit, your monthly retirement allowance. So I already talked about this one earlier in the presentation. The first limit is that your retirement allowance can't be more than 100% of your highest average monthly salary. Okay, the vast majority of people do not hit that cap. You have to work 35 or 40 or 45 years to hit that cap. If you do hit that cap, it's a really good problem to have, because that means you're getting basically your working salary as your retirement allowance. Okay, the next two, the 415B and 401A17 limits, are for people that have really high salaries. That doesn't apply to most people, so I'll let you read about those on your own. You can always, there's always more details out on our website at sera.org/limits. And it doesn't apply to everyone with a high salary. It's between certain date ranges, and there's a benefit replacement plan that you can look at. So I'll let you explore those topics on your own. For Tier 4 members, there is a cap on how much salary we are allowed to include for the purposes of calculating your salary, for the purposes of calculating your retirement allowance. This is written into the law, the Public Employees Pension Reform Act, that started on January 1st, 2013. That it's written into that law, and it says that if you're a general member and you make more than $146,042 for 2023, these are 2023 numbers, or safety $175,250, we cannot include any more salary than that in your total salary for the purposes of calculating your highest average monthly salary per year. So every year your salary is capped at that. So that's the bad news. The good news is that when you hit this amount in the year, we stop taking out retirement contributions for the rest of the year for you. So it does give you a little more money to save in your 457B plan or your personal savings. But yeah, this is written into the Pension Reform Act law. These numbers go up every year. So if you're not retiring this year, these numbers will be higher next year. Okay, let me show you 2 ways to estimate your retirement. And the 2 ways give you kind of 2 different ways to think about what your upcoming pension is going to be. The first way is going to show you a kind of a ballpark quick way to get an idea of what percentage of your salary your pension benefit is going to replace. The second way I'm going to show you is how to get a precision estimate using our online calculator. Okay, so what you're seeing here is a screenshot of one piece of the first page of your retirement planning worksheet that goes along with this webinar. So what you're going to do here in this section, or you could just do this on scratch paper if you want, is think about your retirement scenario, your likely retirement scenario, or a possible retirement scenario that you want to look into. And you think about what age you will be in whole years in that scenario. So for example, if you're going to be 58, you would write that down. Okay, then in this same scenario, you think about how many years of service credit you will have earned in this scenario. So let's say it's 29 years. So if you retired at age 58, you would have earned 29 years of service credit. You take those two numbers and you find out where they intersect on these salary replacement charts that we have out on our website. So you can go to acera.org/ballpark. That is a shortcut way to get to it. Let me show you how to navigate to it on our website. You go from the homepage, acera.org, or from any page, you go to members, which is the first column on the left, and you go down to the third selection, planning your future retirement income. And you'll see that this is actually a step-by-step process for looking into the future and getting some estimates for what your future ACERA benefits might hold, and also for the Social Security and perhaps other savings. So if you want to check out this page, it's a pretty good source of information. All you need to do is scroll down, step 1, option 1, open up that accordion, and you'll see some buttons in here. You click the button for your tier. Okay, so I'm going to do tier 2A. And what you're seeing here is a chart showing you how the percent of your highest salary, and these are ballpark numbers, so these are estimates, the percent of your highest salary that you're going to get in retirement at the intersection of those two of the retirement scenario that we're talking about. Okay, so the example that I was giving you, you will have earned 29 years of service credit at age 58. And you see where those two numbers intersect. Age at retirement is across the top. Years of service credit is along the side. So 29 years of service credit intersects with 58 years of age, and you see it's 50.03%. That is the percentage of your highest salary that you're going to get as your retirement allowance, which is pretty good. That means you achieved from your ACERA pension alone 50% salary replacement. One feature of the chart that you'll note is that you can then proceed diagonally up or down to see the effect of working a year less, working a year more, or working a year less, because you'll get a year older and you'll earn another year of service credit if you wait. So in this example, if I work another year and I get another year older, I will retire at 30, at 30 years of service credit at age 59, and that would give me 54.5% of my salary in retirement. And if I work another year, 59.42%. So then you can just go diagonally and see what working more and more years is. But you're in the pre-retirement webinar, you're ready to retire, so you can just look at the, where your current scenario intersects. In the example that I was giving you, it's 50.03. So let's go back to the worksheet. We can plug that in here. So you can stop here if you want. You're going to get about 50% of your salary, or you can just think about what you get paid per month currently, or you could go into more detail and do an average over the last year or 3 years. But just to get a nice ballpark, you can just think of how much you make per month. You multiply it by that percentage, and that kind of gives you a ballpark retirement estimate. So you could do this one pretty quickly in your head. Now let me show you how to get a precision estimate with the online estimator in your account. What you're seeing here is a screenshot of another place on your retirement planning worksheet. There's a question, will we be going over annuities? And by annuities, do you mean the like private annuities that you can purchase that will give you a guaranteed income for the rest of your life? If that is what you're thinking about, then no, we will not be going over those. Sorry about that. Okay, so you're looking at a screenshot of another piece of the retirement planning worksheet. This is where you can record what you find out in the online benefit estimator if you want. Another way to do it is you just save the online benefit estimate in the same spot that you're saving this PDF, the retirement planning worksheet, or if you're printing them out, you can just staple them all together. So it's up to you. But what you're doing is you're thinking of another retirement scenario, and the separation date and the projected retirement date, which is the separation date is your last day of work. The projected retirement date is the first day of retirement. If you're going straight from active work into retirement, these would just simply be 2 consecutive days. Okay, so you're thinking of a retirement scenario, but in a little more precision, like kind of exactly what day I'm going to retire and what day I'm going to stop working. You take those 2 numbers and you go out to our website and you click the login button and you log into your account on our website. If you haven't done that before, it'll take you a few steps to create an account. You answer some security questions, and it will then get you into your account, and you'll see that your pension information is there waiting for you once you create your account. You're going to click on Estimate a Benefit. And that will bring you to this page, the benefit estimator page. Now I'm going to just zoom in here so you can see it a little bit better. What you're going to do is put your separation date and projected retirement date in these 2 fields. In this example, I'm showing you 2 consecutive dates. This person is planning on retiring in March of 2030, and you hit calculate. Because this is your account and it knows it has all your records on file, it will then take the service credit that you've already earned and project in the future how much more you will have earned in this scenario, and it will use that to estimate your benefit. It's also doing a salary projection for you based on the last payroll record it has on file for you if you're currently making your highest rate of pay, or if you were making a rate of pay that was more somewhere in the past, then it's looking at a final compensation period somewhere in the past to give you this salary projection. You have the opportunity to override both of those numbers if you want. If you want a nice conservative estimate, you could just leave those blank and not override them. But you can, if you want to, like for example, see what the effect of that additional sick leave conversion to service credit would be. And in the example I gave you in the first part of the presentation, you've got another quarter year service credit for the sick leave conversion. So what you could do is take 0.25, which is a quarter, 1 quarter, and you add that to the amount that you're already seeing here, and you put the new total in the override service credit blank, and it'll use that larger number to do this estimate. Okay, then the hours of cash vacation compensation field, you can leave blank for now, and I'll explain how to use that in just a minute. You can put in beneficiary info here, make sure the beneficiary info is all correct, and you hit get estimate. And what you will see is this benefit estimate PDF. It's telling you what it's using to calculate the estimate at the top, and in the bottom table, it's showing you your estimated monthly retirement benefits. For right now, you can just look at the unmodified option, but if you want to pencil that into the worksheet, because that's the one that most people choose, it pays the most. But I will explain in just a few moments, probably 10-15 minutes, what the different options are and how they work and why you might want to choose those. Before I do that, let me tell you about that hours of cash vacation compensation field, because you can put hours of cash vacation compensation in here to see how it increases your retirement allowance. It will calculate that for you. And what I mean by that is that whole topic that we were discussing about you selling vacation or cashing out vacation and getting compensated for it, and that increasing your retirement allowance, this will show you how much it increases your retirement allowance in dollars if you add hours of cash vacation compensation to here. So let me show you how to use that field without overestimating, because if you've sold vacation during the final compensation period that it's using to calculate this projection, that's already baked into this projection. And so if you were to put your limit in hours here, you would be overestimating, and you would not enjoy overestimating, because then you would be disappointed when you finally retired. Okay, so here's how to do it without overestimating. Okay, and this is another spot on that worksheet. This is another place in the worksheet. Okay, so what you're going to do is, for the county courts and other employees who are not a Alameda Health System, we know what your limit is of vacation that we're allowed to include as salary in weeks. So going to the worksheet, all you're going to do is take the number from here and you transfer it over here. Okay, then the limit, you just put it over here. For the AHS members, all you do is you take your limit from up here, whatever it is for you, and you put it in here, limit in hours, because we already know what your limit is in hours. Okay, so in the example I'm giving you, this person, their limit from the calculator of hours of cash vacation compensation that we can use for salary is 6. Now we need to multiply it by your weekly work hours. So some people work 40 hours, some people work 37 and a half. This person works 40. You just multiply those together to get your limit in hours. And then the AHS people, we already know your limit in hours. Okay. Now, if you've never sold vacation, or you haven't sold vacation during the final compensation period, and you want to see the full effect of putting in your full limit in hours, is you can just go ahead and put this number into that calculator. Otherwise, you're going to want to subtract out the vacation that you've sold. So one way to do that is to do step 1, which is you run an estimate and you leave the hours of cash vacation compensation field blank, and you end up with a PDF. And then you're going to look at this date range here, average salary date range. This is the date range that it is using as your final compensation period for this estimate. And you think to yourself, did I sell any vacation during this date range? You can even go back through your payroll records, through your pay stubs, and you can see if you sold any vacation during this date range. And if you did, you're going to want to subtract that out from your full limit. So in this case, this person sold 1 week of vacation. So they're going to want to subtract out the 40 from the 240 to get 200. And then you can run a second benefit estimate, and you could put in 200 in there, and then you hit get estimate, and then you end up with a higher retirement benefit estimate because you now have vacation compensation included in the benefit estimate. Now, again, if you've never sold vacation, or if you're not planning on doing that, you can just put your full limit in here. Or maybe you're really close to retirement and you can't get to your full limit, but you want to see, you're going to have a week on the books. Well, you just put in 40 hours in there, see what it does for you in dollars. Okay, so I will talk in more depth about different what the different options mean, and what retirement allowance estimate they will give you on the estimator in a few minutes. For right now, if you want to keep filling in your worksheet, you could put the result of the unmodified option over into the precision estimate field, or like I said, you could just take this whole PDF and just staple it to the retirement worksheet. So I showed you the ballpark way of getting a ballpark estimate. I showed you how to use the precision benefit estimator on the website. There's a third way that you can use to get a retirement benefit estimate, and that's to have us do it for you. You can fill out a retirement estimate request form if you go to acera.org/forms. Now, if you do that, there's a wait, because we get a lot of these requests. And so you go into a queue, and it could take some days or weeks to get it back. They're also going to send it to you in the mail, which can take a little bit more time. The retirement specialist that's going to do this calculation for you is going to use the same software and math that Web Member Services does, which is the benefit estimator. Web Member Services is our online portal that the benefit estimator is in. So you're going to get the same result. And that benefit estimator in your account is available 24/7, and you can do an estimate in like 5 minutes. So I highly recommend just doing that and not worrying about submitting a request to us. But if you want us to do it for you, we will do it. Okay, to revisit the follow-up question, the question is, your understanding was there's an option to receive an annuity through Acera. That's right. There is something called the temporary added annuity, which is where if you're going to retire significantly under age 62, like maybe you're going to retire at age 50, you can get a temporary increase to your retirement allowance. But then once you reach age 62, it's a permanent decrease to your retirement allowance from Acera. I don't do an explanation of that, because less than 1% of people choose that. We have a few hundred people retire every year, and maybe one person or zero chooses that. but I'll show you where to get that info out on our website, because we do have an explanation of that out on the website. And if you want to hang around after the presentation, I'm happy to explain that to you as well and do a full explanation. So let's see, here's our website. I think it's probably under understanding your SERP benefits. Let me take a guess here. Let me look under how your retirement is calculated. Nope. Okay, so just type in, go to the search field and type in added annuity or temporary added annuity, and it'll pop right up. And it will tell you step by step how to do that and how to get an estimate of what that will do. And like I said, if you want to hang around after the presentation, I'm happy to. Okay, you're very interested in it. Yeah, I'm happy to do a full explanation for you. And if you can't hang around, you can go ahead and send me an email, and I'm happy to explain that to you as well. Okay, so which is better to do? There's another question. Which is better to do? Sell your vacation versus vacation sell back just before you retire? So you're asking regarding the vacation compensation topic. Is it better to sell the vacation, like if we're assuming you're into your, sell the vacation versus cash it out? You know, there might be a slight advantage to cashing out, because when you cash out, you maybe through cost of living adjustments and raises, you make slightly more money by cashing out. But it's not something I would really stress out about, because the difference is probably going to be pennies. And so I like to think of it as it's just easier to do the cash out. If you can get up to your limit with the cash out only, you don't even have to worry about selling vacation and remembering what you sold and all that. It's just easier to do the cash out. But if you do want to sell, you can do that. But the cash out would give you, I think, probably slightly more dollars, salary dollars that go into the salary equation. But like I said, the effect on your retirement allowance between whether you do it through a sale like earlier in your final compensation period versus at the cash out is going to be, it's probably pennies. Okay, so now that we have a fairly good understanding of what you can expect dollar-wise in retirement for your retirement benefit, let me tell you about when you can actually retire if you are ready. You can retire as soon as you're eligible. And looking again at the pension milestone chart, I told you it's some combination of years of service credit and age that gets you to retirement eligibility. And this is the first day that you can retire if you want to, or you can keep working after that retirement eligibility date and earn more credit toward retirement. So the first slide is only for tiers 1, 2, and 3. And I'm going to show you the tier 4 slide in just a minute. Okay, so there's 3 options for you to, basically 3 combinations that get you to retirement eligibility. Option number 1 is that you're age 50, you're at least age 50 or older, and you have at least 5 years of service credit with this era, and you have at least 10 years of membership. Okay, now the difference here is that occasionally somebody will, who's in tier 2 or 3, because tier 1 was long ago, so this probably doesn't apply to tier 1. Occasionally somebody will stop working before they hit the 10-year mark on the membership. So you could retire with like 9 years of service credit. You just got to wait another year until 10 years has passed since your date of entry into ACERA. For those of you who that does not apply to, an easier way to think about it is you have at least 10 years of service credit. So you've worked for 10 years and you are at least age 50, and then you can retire. Or you have at least 5 years and you have 10 years of membership. So if you were working less than full-time, maybe you don't quite have the 10 years of service credit yet, but as long as you have at least 5 years of service credit and you have 10 years has passed since you entered ACERA, then you can retire. Sorry, it's a little complicated, but basically it's 10 years, you've worked 10 years, and then you are over age 50 and you can retire. Option number 2, as a general member, you need at least 30 years of service credit, or you can have, as a safety member, at least 20 years of service credit and retire at any age, even if it's younger than age 50. Option number 3 is that you can retire at age 70 with any amount of service credit. So you don't even need to have the 5 years. And in this scenario, you're still considered vested in the system, even though you don't have 5 years, because you've reached age 70. Then you are guaranteed under option 3, lifetime retirement allowance based on your however much service credit that you have that's less than 5 years. Okay, so that's tiers 1, 2, and 3. Tier 4, you have 2 different combinations that get you to retirement eligibility. You have to be at least age 52 under option 1 as a general member, or at least age 50 as a safety member, and simply have 5 years of service credit. You don't have to do the 10 years of membership thing, and you can retire. Option number 2 is the same thing as the tiers 1, 2, and 3. You can retire with any amount of service credit, even if it's less than 5 years of service credit at age 70. Okay, so retirement eligibility is a quick topic. You can, if you choose, if you'd like to, write in your retirement eligibility age in your worksheet, or if you already know you're long eligible to retire, you can skip that one because you already know you're eligible. Okay, so and to the person who was looking for the annuity explanation earlier, sorry if I was like downplaying that in any way. I'm definitely happy to explain that to you after the presentation, or we can set up a time to talk if you send me an email. And I sent you my email address in the chat. So I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't trying to minimize your the thing that you want to do, because it can be a good option in certain circumstances. So yeah, I'm happy to explain that. Okay, so let's see. Next topic, choosing your retirement date. Let me help you understand the different things that you might want to consider when actually finally choosing that final retirement date, because this is a date that you're going to choose. We don't pick your retirement date for you. This is something that you tell us. And you're going to want to think about these 6 things when you're choosing your retirement date. And we're going to talk about each one. I actually have a slide on each one of these. So let's just go through each one of these individually. The first thing that you may want to think about is, will you have enough income to retire? So this is a purely optional consideration. If you already know you're ready to retire and you're just going to take what you get, I mean, don't even worry about this. But for those of you who want to take a little bit of a peek into the future, it's a good idea. It's helpful to you just go ahead and get the ACERA retirement estimate like I was showing you in our online estimator. It's also a good idea, if you're going to be eligible for Social Security, to use their online estimator over at their website, ssa.gov/estimator, to get an estimate of what they are going to pay you when you become eligible for Social Security. Additionally, if you are saving extra money in a deferred compensation account or some other investment vehicles, then you can consider that as part of your full set of income after you retire, because it's going to be a combination of these 3 things: your ACERA pension and any other pensions that you have. Social Security and any additional savings that you have when you're looking at your post-retirement income. If you want to, this is kind of extra credit. You can think about your post-retirement expenses and just compare dollars to dollars. Purely optional, or a quicker way to do it is just to see if between the combination of your ACERA pension and other pensions, if you have them, your Social Security, and any deductions that you will make from the withdrawals that you'll make from your additional savings, if that gets you to 70 to 80% of your pre-retirement income. So financial planners will tell you that in retirement, you're going to need 70 to 80% of what you were making while you were working before you retired. You're going to need 70 to 80% of your salary in retirement in order to maintain your standard of living. So a quick way to do it is just to see if, the combination of different things that give you income in retirement gets you to that 70 to 80%. Okay. The second thing that you may want to think about are the age factor percentage dates. And I do have a question. Does bilingual pay count toward a footnote for service credit? So if you recall, the service credit is earned for time that you work, your normal working hours. Okay, so when you're looking at footnotes, that doesn't really apply to the service credit part of the formula. Now the footnotes would apply to the salary part of the formula. So that's what you would want to look at to see if bilingual pay counts as salary for the purposes of calculating your salary for retirement. I can't tell you off the top of my head whether that counts, but you can go to our pay code page. You just go under acera.org, you go to employers, which is the third selection, and you go to pay codes and click on that. And then all of the pay codes are listed out for the PDF for your employer, and it'll say yes or no, whether the bilingual pay counts toward your salary calculation or not. You can also type in acera.org/paycodes to your browser. Okay, the second thing that you're going to want to think about in choosing your retirement date are the age factor percentage dates. So we're revisiting this topic. Remember at the beginning of the presentation, I told you that if you are still younger than the maximum age factor percentage for your tier, with every quarter year you get older, you go up one notch in the age factor chart and you get a slightly higher age factor percentage every time 3 months passes. And it's based on your birthday. So to give you an example, if your birthday is January 15th, 1 quarter after your birthday would be April 15th, 2 quarters would be July 15th, 3 quarters would be October 15th. So you take your birthday date and you add 3 months. So to take this example a little bit further, let's say that you are younger than the maximum age for your age factor, the maximum age for your tier where you're getting the maximum age factor percentage. I should take that age factor chart and put it again and show it to you again in this slide. But just off the top of my head, tier 1, the maximum age is 62. And this is general numbers. Tier 2 it's 65, tier 3 it's 55, tier 4 it's 67. For safety members, tier 1, tier 2B is age 50. Tier 2C and tier 2D, I don't remember off the top of my head, so you may want to refer back to the age factor chart. And I don't remember what the safety tier 4 is either. But if you are younger than that age, then your age factors are still increasing with every quarter year that passes. So let's say that that is true and your birthday is January 15th and you're thinking about retiring on July 16th. I'm sorry, you're thinking about retiring on July 14th. Okay, obviously you can see you don't want to do that. You want to retire on July 15th, which means that you get a slightly higher age factor percentage. It will actually increase your retirement allowance just by, in that example, waiting those 2 days. So instead of retiring on July 14th, we're waiting that 1 day. you retire on July 15th, the age factor percentage will increase, and that will increase your retirement allowance by a minimum of 1%. It could be as much as maybe 1.9%, so almost 2%, just by waiting that one day, just by being cognizant of this quarter year day of July 15th based on your birthday. Okay, and the same is true with all of the other dates. As long as you retire on that day or after, you've met the goal of retiring on or after that day, and you get the slightly higher age factor percentage. So what I'm not telling you to do is that you have to retire on one of these days or immediately after one of these days. All I'm saying is I want you to know what these dates are for you based on your birthday, so that you don't retire right before one, because I wouldn't want you to miss out on that 1% and change boost that you will get for retiring on the next highest age factor percentage. Now, since these are quarter years, these are 6+ weeks apart, or 12+ weeks apart. So if you're going to retire right in the middle of one, like you're going to retire 6 weeks before one of these dates, I'm not saying that you need to work another 6 weeks to get past this date. So just don't retire right before one. That's all I'm saying. Next topic in choosing your retirement date that you may want to think about is the COLA date of April 1st. So this is a good opportunity for me to tell you about the guaranteed cost of living increase that you will receive every year once you're retired. The cost of living increase is posted as of April 1st each year. So anyone who's in retired status on April 1st of each year gets the cost of living adjustment for that year, and it's a percentage increase to your retirement allowance. COLA, cost of living adjustment, is abbreviated COLA, and it's calculated based on the percent increase of the Consumer Price Index for the San Francisco Bay Area. The Consumer Price Index is simply a measure of inflation. It's a measure of prices that the Department of Labor calculates, and they do it for the Bay Area. I'm not sure how often, maybe quarterly, but we use the December number. So however much the prices go up from December to December in a particular year, the following April 1st, that becomes the cost of living adjustment number that we're looking at in order to give you a cost of living increase. So for example, if prices go up from December to December 5%, that becomes the number that we're looking at. But there is a maximum annual limit written into the law that has been adopted for your tier that tells us that we can only pay you a maximum increase of, for tier 1 and 3, 3% per year, and tiers 2 and 4, 2% per year. So even if inflation is higher than the 2 or 3%, we can only give you a maximum of 2 or 3% in a particular year. So then you may wonder, well, what happens to those extra percentage points? Can I use those later? And the answer is yes, we save those for you in your COLA bank. If we can't give you those percentage points this year, we'll save them in the COLA bank for a future year. And if the inflation is less than the maximum in a future year, we'll take percentage points out of your COLA bank to get you up to your maximum. The bottom line for that is that if you've been retired a few years, at least 2, 3, 4, 5 years at least, you tend to bank percentages, and you tend to have that means that you tend to have percentages in your COLA bank, and you tend to get the maximum annual limit each year. So it just becomes something that you can expect, a 2% or 3% increase, because inflation is a little bit higher than these numbers on average. Okay, so then people will ask, well, what happens if there's a dilemma between the age factor percentage and the cost of living increase? Because let me go back to the cost of living increase and talk about April 1st for a minute. April 1st is a day that a lot of people target as their retirement date because they're already thinking about retiring in the spring. They're already ready to go. Some of you may be in that category because it's now March, and you may be in this webinar because you are planning to retire on April 1st or right before April 1st of this year. It's very common. March is our biggest retirement month because you're already planning on retiring in the spring and you're thinking, well, I could retire on April 1st and I could get that immediate increase to my retirement allowance. We calculate this if you retire on or before April 1st. That means you're in retired status on April 1st. So you start off with a boost to your retirement allowance, a 2% or 3% increase. Or I could retire on April 2nd or sometime in April, and then I would miss the cost of living adjustment, and I would actually make less money than had I retired April 1st or right before that. So that's why a lot of people retire in March, because you make more money than if you retire in April 2nd or for the rest of April. But there's nothing that's magic about April 1st. You don't need to retire in March or February. You can retire in December, September, July, whenever you want, whatever it works for you. It's just that when April 1st comes around, you get the cost of living increase for your first April 1st, and then you're going to get the cost of living increase for every other April 1st for the rest of your life, because it is a vested benefit. Okay, so what if there is a dilemma between those two when you're trying to choose your retirement date? Because we're still on the topic of choosing your retirement date. And to give you the example, stick with the January 15th birthday because it's a good example. And you are younger than the age factor percentage maximum for your tier in this example, and you're retiring in the spring. So you're thinking, should I retire on April 15th, 1 quarter after my birthday? And in that case, I would get the next age factor percentage increase, but I would miss the cost of living adjustment I would have gotten had I retired on April 1st. Or should I retire on April 1st and I'm going to miss the age factor percentage increase I'm going to get by retiring in a couple of weeks on April 15th, based on my birthday, but I will get the cost of living increase. Which should I choose? Well, what you are going to want to look at is the percentages. Okay, and if we know what the cost of living increase is going to be every year in early February, and we publish it out on our website. For this year, the cost of living increase is going to be the maximum because I think inflation was like 5%. So if it's the maximum, your best bet is to go with the cost of living increase, because you'll get a 2% increase or a 3% increase immediately versus a less than 2% increase. Now, I've been told recently, and I did some calculations, some of the age factor increases will actually almost get you to 2%. It might be like 1.9% increase. So there is a scenario where maybe your birthday is maybe a month or two after April 1st, or the next quarter day. That could be the cost of living increase. What I recommend doing is you go to our benefit estimator online. You do 2 estimates. You do one for retiring on whatever the date is after April 1st that you're thinking about retiring. You do one for retiring on April 1st. Okay, the one for retiring on April 1st will give you a slightly lower retirement allowance, and it will not calculate the COLA for you. But all you got to do is you got to take what it's telling you, you multiply it by 1.02 or 1.03 for a 2% or 3% COLA, and then you see if that number is bigger than the first benefit estimate you did of retiring on a later date, and then you go with the bigger one if you're willing to hang around that long. If not, you can just retire before, on April 1st, and then you get to retire a little bit early. There's a question, what if April 1st is a weekend? What we usually recommend doing is, like if April 1st is a Sunday and you work Monday through Friday, then you probably wouldn't want to retire on April 1st. You would want to retire on March 31st, which is a Saturday. And then your last day on payroll would be the Friday, which would be March 30th. But it's an easy adjustment. You don't have to see to get the COLA, you don't have to retire on April 1st. It's on or before April 1st. So if you retire on March 30th, 29th, 28th, 27th, March 15th, March 1st, when April 1st comes around, you get the cost of living increase. Okay, last topic, and this is kind of a 2-parter, numbers 5 and 6, regarding choosing your retirement date. Oh, and let me do this question real fast. It's up on the board because this is a quick one. The question is, once you put in your retirement application, and you do all the calculations and you get your estimate and you think, oh, well, maybe that's not quite enough. I need to work a little bit longer. Can you withdraw your request? Absolutely. All you need to do is simply write into us. I think you just need to write us a quick letter saying, I'd like to withdraw my retirement application. You date it, sign it, mail it into us, or you can come in here and put it in our Dropbox, which is out in the lobby. You don't even have to talk to us. And it's a locked Dropbox. And then, or you can send it over through QuickCode, and then we will take your application out and you can resubmit it at a later date of your choosing. Okay, back to choosing your retirement date. Okay, so if your goal is to go straight from active work into retirement, you're going to want to pay attention to these next two items. Okay. And the reason that your goal is to go straight from active work into retirement is we're going to do that sick leave conversion to service credit for you. Okay. If there's any gap, even if it's a day between your last day of work, the last day on payroll, and your date of retirement, that means that you spent time as a deferred member and you lose all your sick leave. I don't know why they have that rule. It's probably some incentive to, have you continue working and work straight into retirement. But yeah, you will lose all your sick leave if you spend any time as a deferred member. So you would, if your goal is to get that extra boost from that extra sick leave conversion to service credit, you're just going to want to make sure that your retirement date and your last day on payroll are 2 consecutive dates. Okay, another way to say it is that your last day with your employer, also known as your last day of work, your last day in active employment status, your last day on payroll, these are all synonyms for the same concept. That day is the day before your retirement date. Another way to say it is your retirement date is the date after your last day on payroll. Okay, these are 2 consecutive dates. Now this day, this last day on payroll, is the day that you write on your letter of resignation to your employer. Whenever you call into us and saying you're ready to retire and set up the counseling session, we will send you out to our website, and there's a step-by-step process for doing the retirement application. One of the items on there is the letter of resignation, and we have a template for you that you can just copy and paste and put in your own information. So it's not a complicated thing. You just copy and paste it, put in your dates, tell them what your last day on payroll is, your date of resignation, and then that's how you do that. Okay, then your retirement date, this is the day that you write on your retirement application to Acera. And if these 2 dates are right next to each other, then you're going straight into from active work into retirement, and we will do the sick leave conversion for you automatically, and you don't even have to think about it. Okay, next, part 2 of this, choosing your retirement date if you're trying to do the sick leave conversion and just go straight from active work into retirement, is your last day on payroll should not be a holiday. Okay, and your retirement date should be a day that is the day after you are regularly scheduled to be on to work. Okay, so for example, if you work Monday through Friday, you're not regularly scheduled to work on Saturday or Sunday. So you don't want to retire on Sunday or Monday, because the day before Sunday or Monday, you weren't scheduled to work. And that will actually cause you to have 1 day of deferred time, and that you will lose your sick leave. So it's not hard to do. I just want to tell you all of the rules around this. So if you're scheduled Monday through Friday, your first day of retirement should be Tuesday through Saturday. For some of you who don't have a regular schedule, maybe you work in healthcare, or maybe you are a sheriff's deputy, maybe you don't know what days you're going to be on the schedule during the week that you're going to retire. So for you, maybe at this point, if your retirement is a little bit out, you choose a retirement week. And then once it gets closer and you know what the schedule is, you choose a retirement day on a day after you are scheduled to work. And you'll note that it's okay to be on leave during this last day on payroll. You can be on any of the leaves that they'll let you be on that you have left: floating holidays, management leave, comp time, vacation leave, whatever it is. It's totally okay. Okay, but you're getting paid for that day because you're using your leave balances, so that's your last day on payroll. Okay. Any more questions on that? Question is, if I want to get the cost of living adjustment by April 1st, and okay, so the question is, if I want to get the cost of living adjustment on April 1st, do I need to retire on March 31st and have my termination date be March 30th? The answer is you can do that if you want, and you will get the COLA, but you don't have, you can have your first day of retirement on April 1st. Okay, so this is actually this calendar here kind of illustrates it well, because this would be March 31st. This could be your last day of work, and then your first day of retirement could be April 1st, and you will get the cost of living adjustment for that year. As long as your first day of retirement is on April 1st or before, you get the cost of living adjustment. Okay, so now that you maybe have a different idea of your projected retirement date, or maybe it's stayed exactly the same, you can fill that in on your worksheet. And now that you know what your separation date is, if you're trying to go directly into retirement, you just subtract 1 day, and you can put that in your worksheet here. Okay, let's talk about the retirement application process and the 5 different retirement options. Here's how the retirement application process works when you're finally ready to put it on paper. Well, we don't do it on paper anymore. It's, I mean, you can, but it's going to be electronic in most cases. So step 1, this is your step-by-step process. Step 1 is to go through our preparing to retire section at acera.org/prepare. There's a few extra steps in there that we want you to do, but don't worry, because you've actually done a lot of the steps already. So let me show you how to get there. You go out to acera.org. There's a couple of ways that you can do this. You go under members, preparing to retire. Or if you scroll down to this berry colored ready to retire section, you can there's actually a link in here to the preparing to retire section. The preparing to retire section is a chronological step-by-step process to get you to do some final things. Now, we've already verified your retirement eligibility, check. We talked about considering purchasing service credit. You can check that out. In many cases, you've probably already done that. You already understand the vacation, how the vacation affects your pension. So you've already done that. If you've already got a retirement estimate, check. Attending a pre-retirement seminar, you're doing it right now. So you can see you're already halfway through this section. But we do want you to go through the rest of it and just note any of the things that apply to you, because there's some documents that you might need to provide, and so on and so forth. That's step 1. Step 2 is setting up a ready to retire counseling session. We want you to do this within the 3 to 6 month period before your retirement date. Okay, so if you think about the 6 months before your retirement date, the 3 months leading up to your retirement date, that is the time that you can submit your retirement application. The 3 months before that is when we want you to set up the counseling session. And you can do that by navigating to acera.org/counseling, or I'll show you how to get there on that same page that I was just on, the preparing to retire page. It's the second to last step, scheduling a ready to retire counseling session. And all you do is fill out this form and submit it to us. We will then go through it. We will contact you to set up that counseling session, and the counseling session will be set up for the 3 month period leading up to your retirement date. Okay. But again, if you need to change your retirement date later after you submit your application, you can always do that. Okay, step 3 is submitting a retirement application. So So you can submit your retirement application within that 3 month period, the 90 days before your retirement date. The last step on the preparing to retire page is the retirement application page, or you can go to acera.org/retire. They'll tell you more about it when you sign up. when you call in or sign up for the counseling session, but I can just show it to you now. So this is the preparing to retire page. Preparing to retire. The last step is applying to retire. This has a few additional things in it. This shows you the different retirement options. This also has an electronic retirement packet, and this is where you will actually fill out your retirement application through DocuSign. You click on there, you fill it out electronically through DocuSign, you hit submit, and then whatever day, so on that retirement application, you're going to choose a retirement date, you're going to choose one of the 5 retirement options, and you hit submit, and when that date passes, you are retired. It's going to be amazing. You've been working through this and earning your retirement throughout your entire career, and now it's your time to collect on that retirement that you've earned. It's going to be amazing. You're going to love it. So excited for you. My time will come at some point. But your time is now. So you submit the retirement application, choose the retirement option, and then you're retired once that date passes. So now that you know on your worksheet what day to submit the Ready to Retire counseling form is to set up the Ready to Retire counseling session, you take your retirement date, you subtract 6 months, you write that in. You set a reminder in your phone to submit that. You can expect your first retirement check within 4 to 6 weeks after your last employer paycheck. Unless there's a major issue with your file, you can still expect a check, but it'll be a little bit less. It'll be an 80% payment. These days, because we're asking you to tell us like 6 months in advance, getting ready to retire, or even if it's 3 months in advance or whatever, that gives us prep time to get you all set up in the system, and 99.9% of everyone gets 100% payment. As their first retirement payment within that 4 to 6 weeks after the last employer paycheck. But if we do have to issue you any 80% payments, you will get a retro payment to make up for any less than 100% payments that we had to make for you. Okay, let me tell you about the 5 retirement allowance options. There is the unmodified option and options 1 through 4. At the time of your retirement, on your retirement application is when you choose your option. You cannot change your option later. There's one scenario where if you do a regular retirement and then you apply for disability retirement and then later you're awarded a disability retirement, you may be able to change your option. I would talk to the disability the disability coordinator that you're working with about that. But if you're just doing the regular retirement, you can only choose the one option. You can never change your option. So it's good to understand what the different options are. I'm going to show you 1 slide per option. And for each slide, there's going to be a lot of text. Sorry, it's like a wall of text, but I'll walk you through it, okay? The top is going to tell you the name of the option. Then the top part of the table is going to tell you things about your retirement allowance as an ACERA retiree, because you're receiving that retirement allowance every month for the rest of your life. And then the bottom information is going to talk about the details of what your beneficiary or beneficiaries can receive after your death. Now, beneficiary, that word just means somebody who gets benefits. In the context of ACERA, your ACERA beneficiary is somebody who receives your ACERA death benefits after you pass away. It's the person that you name for your ACERA death benefits, or in some cases, persons, multiple persons. So let me walk you through this. Let's talk about the unmodified option first, okay? This is the option that the vast majority of people choose because it's simply because it pays the most of any of the other options. It's the maximum retirement allowance of any of the 5 options. So you'll notice that there's a subtitle here under the unmodified option, 60% to beneficiary, because what this does for certain beneficiaries is it pays a 60% monthly continuance after your death. Now, continuance, that word simply means a continuing payment, continuing monthly payment after your death. Okay, so you as a retiree, while you're alive and receiving your retirement allowance, are getting a retirement allowance payment on the last business day of the month, every month for the rest of your life. Okay, so the continuance part of it is simply that you die, your beneficiary starts getting a monthly payment on that same day, the last business day of the month. And in this case, it's going to be 60% of whatever you were receiving at the time of your death, because you get your retirement allowance at the time of your retirement, and then you get cost of living increases. So whatever your retirement allowance is at the time of your death, they would receive 60% of that. Now, if it's a spouse or state registered domestic partner who you have married or registered with the state at least 1 year before your retirement, that is a lifetime continuance. They will get that monthly payment every month for the rest of their life. Now, if you are awarded, if you apply for and awarded a service-connected disability, that would actually be 100% payment rather than a 60%. Okay, and we'll touch on disability very briefly at the end of the presentation. Disability retirement. Okay, so if you don't have a spouse or a state registered domestic partner, but you choose the unmodified option and you do have a minor child or multiple minor children, you can designate them as your beneficiary for the unmodified option or beneficiaries. However, it is not a lifetime monthly continuance, it's temporary. It stops at age 18 unless they enroll in a full-time accredited school, and then it can continue until age 22, at which time it will cut off. If they get married or register a state domestic partner anytime during that time, then it will cut off. Okay, so those are the rules around naming minor children as a continuance beneficiary. Now, if you have one minor child, they'll get the 60% continuance. If you have two minor children that you name and you specify that they each get the same, then they will split it so they'll each get basically a 30% continuance, and then you can so on and so forth. Okay, now there's some final language down here under this other subheading, lump sum payment. And this is for the people that choose the unmodified option, but don't have anyone who they want to name as a continuance beneficiary or that they can name. Maybe you don't have a spouse, state registered domestic partner, and minor children, but you want the unmodified option. That's totally cool. People do that all the time. You can even name a beneficiary. You cannot name a beneficiary for a continuance. You can name them for a one-time lump sum payment. And after your death, what they will receive in their one-time payment is basically the balance of your contribution account with Acera. So it's all of the retirement contributions you paid into Acera throughout your entire career, plus all of the interest that we have posted to your account whenever the fund earns interest, minus all of the retirement allowance payments that we've already paid you as a retiree. So if you live more than 3 to 5 years after your retirement, hopefully you do, that means that that money will be exhausted. There will not be a balance in your contribution account to pay out to a lump sum beneficiary. So that's the bad news. The good news is what that means, what the implication of that is. It means that everything that you paid into the retirement system throughout your entire career, we will give you back all of that money in your first 3 to 5 years of retirement. So you get all the money back. And then everything after that is this guaranteed secure income that it doesn't matter how much you contributed to the system. You're just going to get that payment every month for the rest of your life because you participate in a defined benefit pension plan. So it's like this amazing thing that you get to take advantage of by having a secure retirement for the rest of your life that you can count on. There are other lump sum payments. There's smaller lump sum payments. There's a $1,000 lump sum payment that everyone gets. So it's still good to name a to have that lump sum beneficiary. There's a partial month that we didn't get a chance to pay you yet, so they could get that. If you paid any healthcare premiums in advance, we will refund those. So there will be some other smaller lump sum payments that they would be eligible for. Okay, last scenario, I want to tell you about the unmodified option. The other options are a lot simpler. Okay. Last scenario that I want to tell you about the unmodified option is that there are many cases where at the time of your retirement, you had a spouse or state registered domestic partner, for example, and you named them as your continuance beneficiary for the 60%. And then you retire, but then they pass away before you do. In that case, You can name a new beneficiary as a retiree, but you cannot name a new beneficiary for a continuance. The only opportunity that you get to name a beneficiary for a continuance is at the time of retirement on your retirement application. So any beneficiaries you name in retirement will be eligible for those lump sum payments I was just talking about. So you would be naming a lump sum beneficiary. That the same thing goes for the scenario where you're not married at the time of retirement, but then you get married as a retiree. You can name your new spouse as your beneficiary for a lump sum payment. Okay, that's the unmodified option. Option number 1 is the only one of all of the 5 options that never pays a continuance to anyone at any time, ever. Okay, it's set up to not do that specifically. You'll see the subtitle is called lump sum to beneficiary. It only pays out a lump sum, a one-time lump sum to a beneficiary. What it does is a couple of things. A, it pays only slightly less than the unmodified option. It pays almost as much as the unmodified option, so it's almost as good. The second thing it does, B, is it extends the time that there's a balance left over in your contribution account to pay out a larger lump sum to your beneficiary. Rather than 3 to 5 years, it's 10 to 12 years. So if you were to die in the first 10 to 12 years, there would be an amount left over in your contribution account to pay out to a beneficiary. Okay, and that's basically, you can name anyone as a beneficiary for that. So that's basically what that does. The people that might want to do that are the people who are thinking about the unmodified option, but don't have anyone to name a continuance to. You can choose option 1 if there's some scenario you're thinking where, in that you may want to leave a larger lump sum to a beneficiary who's not a spouse, state registered domestic partner, or minor child. Okay, so that's option 1. Option number 2. So we have the other 3 are options 2, 3, and 4. Okay. Option number 2, the subtitle is 100% to beneficiary. So you can probably see where this is going. This does 2 major things. The first major thing it does is, rather than paying a 60% monthly continuance to a beneficiary, it pays 100%. So whatever your retirement allowance was at the time of your death, your beneficiary will receive that same payment every month for the rest of their life, plus cost of living increases every year. The second major thing that this does is it expands the group of people that you can name for a continuance to anyone. It doesn't have to be spouse, state registered domestic partner, or minor children. It can be anyone. It could be one of those people too. If you want to leave 100% to your spouse, you could choose option 2. Now there's some caveats here. One caveat you can see, I skipped over the retirement allowance row, is because, so I could explain this first, is that it pays less than the unmodified option, because all of the options pay less than the unmodified option. And the amount less that this pays is based on your beneficiary's life expectancy. So if your beneficiary is younger than you or significantly younger than you, we expect to have to pay them a continuance longer. So we bake that into your retirement allowance calculation. We pay you less. And that means that if your beneficiary dies before you do, we don't recalculate your retirement allowance. We never recalculate people's retirement allowances. So whatever your retirement allowance was at the time of your retirement calculated to be, that's what it's going to be for the rest of your life, plus cost of living increases. Okay. Let's see here. One more thing I want to point out is, if your beneficiary is not a spouse and they are more than 10 years younger than you, we may not be able to pay them 100% continuance. It may be something less, like 95 or 90. You can read more about that. I should put a link to that on our page. But on that retire page, which is acera.org/retire, which is the very last step on the applying to retire page. I'm sorry, the preparing to retire page. Let me show you again how to navigate to this. Okay, so from the home page, go down to the berry colored section, click on apply to retire. This takes you directly to the retire page. Scroll down to step 3. This gives you many of the details I'm telling you about the 5 retirement options. Maybe it gives you a few more. Scroll down to option number 2. There's a link here to this IRS memo. This on this memo, it gives you a table and it shows you if they're 11 years younger than you and they're not a spouse, we can pay them 96%. If they're 12 years younger than you, we can pay them 93%, and so on and so forth. So there is an additional IRS rule about this for just option 2. Okay, that's option 2. Pays 100% to the beneficiary. You can name anyone, but it does pay less than the unmodified option. Option number 3 is the exact same as option 2, with one big difference, which is that rather than paying 100% to the beneficiary, it pays 50%, okay? But you can still name anyone as a beneficiary, okay? And they would receive, as their monthly lifetime continuance, half of whatever you were receiving at the time of your retirement. Now, because this pays less to the beneficiary, this pays you more as a retiree. So that's a big difference with this one regarding your retirement allowance. The amount that your beneficiary's life expectancy is still considered, it's still baked into this this reduction calculation. So that's just something to consider, and all the same rules apply as option number 2. If your beneficiary dies before you do, we do not recalculate your retirement allowance. Option number 4 is very similar to options 2 and 3. Now, okay, I have a question before I do option number 4. Okay, so the question with option 2 is if with the significantly younger beneficiary that's not a spouse and is more than 10 years younger, does the retiree receive 100% and only the younger beneficiary will receive the reduced allowance? I'm not 100% sure about this. I'm gonna take a wild guess based on what I know about how these calculations usually work, is that if we see that we can only pay the beneficiary, like let's say a 96% continuance, we're gonna consider that when we're calculating your retirement allowance. So you would probably get a higher retirement allowance than if we were able to pay them 100%. That's a wild guess. I could be completely wrong about that. That would be something that you would probably want to call into our call center and ask them specifically about. But one thing that you could do is, no, forget that. You're going to want to call into our call center and ask them specifically about that. And so to contact us, there's 2 ways. You can email us or you can call us. If you go to acera.org/contact, there's an email form there. You can email that question to us, or you can give us a call at 510-628-3000. I'll just go ahead and type that in for you. 510-628-3000, or acera.org/contact. I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that question, but I will go get the answer to that for future reference. Okay, so option number 4. This is very similar to options 2 and 3. You can name your beneficiary can be anyone. Okay. Now, where it differs from options 2 and 3 is the fact that you can name more than one person. Another way that it differs is that you can specify the dollar amount or the percentage that you want your beneficiaries to get. So all of the different combinations are wide open for you on option number 4. In option 2, you can only name one beneficiary and it's only 100%. Option 3, you can only name one beneficiary and it's only 50%. Option 4, you could name one beneficiary for 20% if you wanted, or you could name one beneficiary for 70% or for 27%, whatever you wanted to do. You could specify that, or you could specify a dollar amount. Oh yeah, you're welcome. Absolutely. And so that means that if you see, like, let's say that you are looking at option 3, you want to leave 50% to your beneficiary, but it kind of reduces your retirement allowance by too much. Well, you could look at what if I leave a 40% continuance or a 30% continuance? So you could look at that. Or another thing, another scenario is you have 2 adult children that you want to leave a benefit to, and maybe you want to leave them 100% continuance, so they would each get 50-50. Or maybe you look at that and that's like way too much of a reduction on your retirement allowance. So then maybe you leave them each 20% or 10%, like whatever, whatever works for you. Or maybe you have like a nephew and you want to leave them something, 10%, 5%, whatever. So it's all up to you. One little pitch that I'll make here is I do get asked the question about leaving lifetime continuances to adult children. And so my response to that is usually that is a really beautiful intention. That's like a really amazing thing, that you want to provide a guaranteed income to your adult child or adult children after your death. That's a really, it's a really beautiful and loving thing that you want to do. Consider a different amazing gift that you can leave your adult children is your financial solvency throughout the rest of your life. So what I would say is that when you're considering leaving continuances, lifetime continuances to adult children, make sure that you have enough to live on for the rest of your life, because that's an amazing gift to your adult children, that they don't have to worry about you. They don't have to worry about your income for the rest of your life. And in most cases, they have many more earning years ahead of them. So that's just my little pitch for that. So those are the 5 retirement allowance options in general. Now, specifically, you can get an estimate of what each of these will pay you in your specific scenario. And all you need to do, and I'm showing you again the screenshot of the benefit estimator, you just fill out your retirement scenario with your dates, hit calculate, you go down here, you fill out the beneficiary information. Your beneficiary may already be on file, the one that you want to name, like your spouse, for example, if you've already named them for the active member death benefits. Make sure that the date of birth is correct if you're choosing your beneficiary from the dropdown, because if the date of birth is not correct, it will throw off some of the estimates. You could get estimate. I'll zoom in here. Okay, now some of the different options probably make a little more sense to you now that I've gone through all the details. You'll notice that the unmodified option is the highest retirement allowance of any of the options. You'll notice that the beneficiary allowance that it's calculating for the unmodified is 60% of that. You'll notice that option 1, the beneficiary allowance is grayed out because it does not pay a continuance to a beneficiary ever. You'll notice that option 2, and this is where you can get a sense based on your beneficiary's age of how much the reduction is going to be from the unmodified option. So you'll notice that it's maybe significantly less than the unmodified option. Whereas the option number 1 is only slightly less. In this example, it looks like it's about $9 less than the unmodified option. So option number 2 is going to be less than the unmodified option, and the beneficiary allowance is exactly the same because it's 100% payment to the beneficiary. Option number 3, you'll see it is more than option number 2 because it pays the beneficiary less, so it pays you more. And you'll notice it's 50% of option 3. So that is how those are the things that you're going to want to think about when choosing your, among one of the 5 options. It's a lot. It's basically like balancing out how much you want to receive as a retiree versus how much you want the opportunity to leave to your beneficiaries. This does not provide an estimate for option 4 because there's too many different permutations. So if you want an estimate for option 4, what you should do is talk to your counselor during your Ready to Retire counseling session. Okay, moving on to the next section, understanding other benefits. So I'm a little over time here, so I might stretch out this discussion. I might cut into it might take us a little more than 12:15. I might cut into the deferred compensation time a little bit, just to make sure that I talk about all of these benefits. So what I'm showing you here is a slide on non-guaranteed benefits, also known as non-vested benefits. We talked about vested benefits, which is the retirement allowance, the cost of living adjustment, and the death benefits. Okay. These are not guaranteed benefits. These are extra benefits that the county in the 80s decided the retirees needed to help pay for their life. And so they started a reserve fund that our Board of Retirement administers. And our Board of Retirement is in charge of this fund. They choose what these extra benefits are. And their whole goal is to ensure that this fund stays sustainable into the future so that we can continue offering these extra benefits for retirees for years to come, years and years to come. But you'll notice that maybe reduced or eliminated is in bold, because that's what our Board of Retirement does. They assess every year with an actuary how much money is going out of the reserve, how much money is coming into the reserve, and so they set the level of benefits from there. So they may change slowly over time. They often don't make sudden drastic changes, but maybe they'll not increase the medical subsidy for 1 year just to make sure the fund stays sustainable. Currently, the fund is as sustainable as I've ever seen it. And there's over $1 billion in there. You can read more about that out on our website. But it's considered very sustainable right now. There's a lot of money in there. What you're looking at is a list of the non-guaranteed benefits. There's 5 of them. There's a medical subsidy, which we call our monthly medical allowance, is what MMA stands for. And there's 3 levels of the medical subsidy that you can get depending on the amount of years of ACERA service credit you have to qualify for it. There's also a dental subsidy and a vision subsidy that pays 100% of your monthly premium for dental and vision. There's a Medicare subsidy that helps you cover the cost of being enrolled in Medicare. There's a supplemental cost of living adjustment that maintains your buying power in retirement. And you can see that that's the only one that everyone has access to, regardless of years of ACERA service credit. For all of the other non-guaranteed benefits, the Board of Retirement has set a number of years of ACERA service credit rule to qualify for the benefits in order to maintain that fund sustainability. And most of them start at 10 years of ACERA service credit. And then for the monthly medical allowance, there's 15 to 20-year levels that gets you more of a medical subsidy. You'll notice it says ACERA service credit. We're not talking about any reciprocal service credit, okay? So if you have reciprocity with another agency, we're only looking at the service credit you earned under ACERA. Let me talk about each one of these subsidies in detail and about the different health plans that you can enroll in. And there's a couple of quick questions here. One is that, do we get life insurance when we retire? ACERA does not offer any type of way to connect you with life insurance like the county does when you are employed. It's possible that you could continue your active member life insurance into retirement, and that would be something that you would want to ask the county's employee benefits center about how to do that, if that's an option. Second question, if I choose option 4 and it equals 60% spread out to 4 beneficiaries, will I get the same as the unmodified option? I doubt it, because they're going to use the life expectancy of the youngest beneficiary of the 4 beneficiaries in order to determine the reduction from the unmodified option. So I don't think so. Probably the only scenario where that would happen is if your beneficiary is significantly older than you. Then it's possible that it might not be much of a reduction from the unmodified option. Okay, when you go to retire, we will give you the opportunity to enroll in one of our medical plans that we administer. So you will probably want to come off of your employer's plan because it'll become expensive if you choose the COBRA option. And so you can enroll in one of our plans. We have group plan options and we have individual plan options. And if you have at least 10 years of Acera service credit, in addition to being able to enroll in a medical plan, you can receive a subsidy for the cost of being enrolled in that plan, which is known as, our subsidy is known as our monthly medical allowance. The monthly medical allowance, again, is not a guaranteed benefit. Its entire job is to offset the cost of being enrolled in one of our sponsored medical plans. So no outside plan that you go get out on your own. You cannot use the monthly medical allowance for those. We have group plans, and in the group plans, the monthly medical allowance will offset the premium, which is the monthly cost of being enrolled in the medical plan. For the individual plan options, not only will it offset the monthly premiums, but it will also offset copays and deductibles if you sign up for a deductible plan. The amount is set annually by the Board of Retirement. They do look at, excuse me, they do look at increasing it every year. Some years they increase it, some years they hold it the same. My apologies. The monthly medical allowance often will not pay the entire amount of the medical premium. So any cost in excess of the subsidy, you're responsible for paying. It's not available for others, beneficiaries, spouses, others. It's only available for your, to help pay for your coverage. You can enroll your spouse or plus one or family, but the subsidy is only to cover the cost of your coverage. And you can see what the 2023 amounts are that the board has approved. So the 20-year full monthly medical allowance is $616 and change. The 3/4 amount for at least 15 years is $462. The 10-year amount is $308 and change, which is half of the full amount. So think about these numbers and think about what scenario you might be in. And then I'm going to show you the current premiums, and you can see how much of the premium the subsidy will pay for. Here's a list of our plans for this year. These will change, periodically. We've had kind of the same set of plans for a while, although the Signature Value Advantage plan is new as of, a few years ago. These are grouped in this table into two categories, non-Medicare and Medicare eligible. Now, Medicare eligible plans. Medicare is the federal government's health care system. Once you reach age 65, you can enroll in Medicare, and the federal government will provide care for you. You don't need to enroll in a medical plan. But if you want to, you can enroll in a medical plan that works with Medicare and provides a higher level of coverage. And that's what you're seeing listed out here. There's Kaiser Permanente Senior Advantage Plan, which is a group plan that we contract with. And then we have individual plan options through VA Benefits for these extra add-on Medicare plans that give you the higher level of coverage. Now, if you're not yet Medicare eligible, you would be looking at this set of plans. There's 3 group plans and an individual plan options through VA Benefits. What I'm going to do is explain to you the group plans. I'll show you the slides for that, and then I'll talk about the individual plans together, combined, whether you're non-Medicare or Medicare eligible, because it's more efficient that way and it's easier to understand. And in general, and our open enrollment is November of each year. Now, retiring is a qualifying event, and so because it's a qualifying event, you will be able to get right into one of these plans. You don't have to wait for open enrollment. And when you talk to your counselor, they will they'll get everything set up for you so you get right into one of our plans. You'll have coverage on day 1 of retirement. Okay, so I'm going to show you just the premiums. I'm not really going to talk about the plan design because there's a lot of details about that, but all of the details are in our annual enrollment guide. If you go to acera.org/guide, you can find the PDF of that. We will send you a paper copy every year in the mail in October ahead of our November open enrollment. Okay, so what you're seeing here is a slide with our 3 non-Medicare group plans and what they cost to you every month. So these are the premium amounts. These are for California service areas, which is the Bay Area, Fresno, Sacramento, Southern California, and Kaiser Permanente is, they also have Santa Cruz. You have to live in the service area to enroll in the plan. If you live outside the service area, you cannot enroll in one of the plans. You got to choose an individual plan through VIA benefits, which I'll talk about in just a minute. And you can see that the United Healthcare Signature Value HMO is the cheapest plan at $843.94. And you'll also notice that even with the 20-year monthly medical allowance, that's still maybe $200 over the 20-year monthly medical allowance. So you end up paying the extra cost of being enrolled in the plan. And you can see that you can enroll Self-Plus 1 and family, and the copays are $15. Now, this is a good point to show you how, if you are eligible for the monthly medical allowance, how we pay it to you, and to talk about the subsidies showing up in your retirement check. What you're seeing here is a very crude illustration of your retirement check stub, but it's very simplified just to illustrate this point, where you have your gross pay. In this case, the example is $4,000. Then you're going to have a deductions column. Any of the healthcare plans that you sign up for, the group healthcare plans, you'll see it in this deductions column. We will take the monthly premium out of your check for you and send it over to the healthcare company to pay for your coverage. So we do that as a convenience to you. And then also as a convenience to you, we will put any monthly medical allowance or any other subsidies for the dental and vision back into your check. And that will come in the additions column. And then, so if there's a difference, you end up paying the difference. And you can see that happening in this example. The monthly medical allowance doesn't quite cover the Kaiser HMO. And then you see the net pay. There will be more stuff here. There will be taxes. You'll owe taxes on your retirement income because you didn't pay taxes on your contributions to the fund. Additionally, one more thing I want to point out is any of these subsidies are non-taxable. This is not taxable income. It will not increase your tax liability. Okay, moving on. What you're seeing here is a table showing the Medicare group plan cost. So what you saw before was the non-Medicare group plans. There's 3. This is the only Medicare group plan choice that we offer through Kaiser Permanente. You can see the premium is much cheaper, $316.81, and that's because the federal government is paying for most of the costs of your care. And there's another row here where I've put an MMA, monthly medical allowance amount, in here, and I've done that to illustrate this point, which is that the monthly medical allowance only pays up to the amount of the self-premium and does not pay over, so you do not get to keep the change. The good news with that is that it just means that you have a 0 out-of-pocket cost. So there's, even at the 15-year monthly medical allowance amount, you basically you get this plan for free because you have a 0 out-of-pocket cost. So that's how that works. These are the 2023 premiums. Again, the service areas are the same, the California service areas. Now, if you live outside the service areas, or if you're a Medicare member and you just want to have a choice of what individual plan to be in, you can do that through VIA benefits. So let me talk about VIA benefits. First of all, let me talk about who can enroll in VIA benefits, in a VIA benefits individual plan. If you're not yet Medicare eligible, you have to live inside the US, but you have to live outside our group plan service areas. So if you live in Oakland, for example, you have to choose one of our group plans if you want coverage through Acera. If you live up in Redding, if you move up there, that's outside the group plan service area. So then you would be choosing one of our individual plans through VIA benefits if you want coverage through Acera. There's a question, can I use my husband's medical or will I lose these options? That is an excellent question. You can continue to use your spouse's medical for as long as you want, and then you retain these options in the future. During open enrollment or with any other qualifying event. So another qualifying event would be maybe your husband is continuing to work for another couple of years and then he retires. And so you basically lose coverage through him. Well, that's a qualifying event. And so you could get right into one of our options. So you maintain these options, whatever the options are, you know, they kind of evolve over time, but they as long as I've been here, they've been basically this, you know, similar. The options have actually gotten better and better as we've gone along. We didn't used to have this individual plan option at all. Okay, now, if you are Medicare eligible, and you want to enroll in VIA benefits, you can. All you need to do is live in the US anywhere, even if it's in our group plan service areas. And you just need to enroll in Medicare Parts A and B. Okay, there's a question. Does the sick leave conversion count toward the service credit? Does that get you over the mark for, or does the sick leave conversion service credit count for this? Does it get you over like the 20-year mark or the 10-year mark or the 15-year mark? Great question that I should know the answer to. I'll write, let me write to one of my colleagues and I'll have the answer for you after the deferred compensation program. Because I've actually been wondering this myself and I should just know the answer. So sorry about that. I'll come back to that. Okay, so let's see. So sticking with the VIA benefits topic. So we established who can enroll in a VIA benefits plan. Now, what is VIA benefits? It is a private health insurance exchange that we contract with to provide you access to 1,000 different plans through 80 or 100 different insurance carriers. They contract directly with insurance carriers to find these plans, and they connect you with them. They're kind of like a massive insurance broker that we contract with to provide the service, and they also provide the service of administering your monthly medical allowance for you, which I'll talk about in just a minute. They have these certified benefit advisors that are not commissioned, so they are going to connect you with whatever plan is right for you. And what happens is you can go online and use their online tool to narrow down the plans to what's right for you and pick, or you can call them. And what you're telling them is where you live or where you're going to live, how much you want to spend, what level of coverage you want to have. You could even tell them what doctors you want to see or what prescription drugs you need to take, and they will find you the right plan. They'll narrow their 1,000 plans down to like 5 or 6 and then help you choose among those. And the monthly medical allowance, again, pays for these individual plans, not only premiums, but deductibles and copays. The monthly medical allowance works a little bit differently. It's paid to you a little bit differently because we can't put it into your check. There's so many different plans, it's too complicated. So they administer this for us. And what you're seeing here is a really basic illustration of how this works. So here's Acera. If you're eligible for the monthly medical allowance, here's your Acera dollars for the monthly medical allowance dollars. Acera will send those dollars over to VIA benefits for you. They will open up a health reimbursement account and they will deposit those dollars in there for you. And those dollars will sit there and wait in your health reimbursement account at VIA benefits. Okay, then you have your bank account here. You're going to enroll in healthcare coverage, which is why we're talking about this. And that is going to come with a monthly charge. As we know, it's called a premium. You pay that directly to the insurance company out of your bank account. So you send them that money. Now you're out some money. Okay, then you're enrolled in health insurance. You go visit the doctor. You're going to owe a copay. So you pay the doctor the copay. You're out some more money. What you do is you submit reimbursement claims back to VIA benefits, and they will pay you the monthly medical allowance dollars back to your bank account, and they'll help you set the stuff up to all happen electronically and automatically and recurringly. So you don't have to think about this every month. Okay. If you would just have to submit reimbursement claims for doctor's visits. One more item that I want to talk about regarding monthly medical allowance is the fact that for just the Medicare people who are eligible for Medicare and who are seeking an individual plan through VIA benefits, what the board has found is that those plans are so inexpensive because Medicare is footing most of the bill and they tend to be a lot cheaper than the Kaiser plan, that they decided to offer a slightly reduced monthly medical allowance amount for just those Medicare members and VIA benefits. Not the non-Medicare members and VIA benefits. They still have access to the slightly higher monthly medical allowance amounts. But what you're seeing here is those slightly reduced monthly medical allowance amounts. They do keep track of how many people run out of the money, and people who are at the 20 or more year level, over 90% of them, the amount of money for the full monthly medical allowance is adequate to cover their entire medical expenses throughout the entire year. But that is something that they do consider every year when they're setting the benefit levels. Okay, I saw a question pop up. My medical is United Healthcare with a $1,200 premium for the self. Does it mean I pay the difference between the $1,200 and the $661 full monthly medical allowance benefit? So if you're talking about because if you go back to our non-Medicare group plans, okay, so if you're looking at this United Healthcare Signature Value HMO, for example, yes, that's exactly what that would mean. This is the self premium, and you get $661 to help pay the cost of this premium. So that is exactly what that would mean. Okay, let me move on to the dental plans. Here's how the dental plans work. If you have at least 10 years of ACERA service credit when you retire, you have to enroll in one of our 2 dental plans, but it doesn't cost you anything because the self premium and the subsidy are exactly the same. So for example, if you have at least 10 years of ACERA service credit or service-connected disability retirement, and you enroll in the Delta Dental PPO, you would see 5124 come out of your check, your ACERA check. You would see 5124 go back into your check in the same check in the additions column versus the deductions column, and it would end up costing you 0. And it's just easier and cheaper to run the plan that way. You can enroll Self Plus One, for example, and you would just pay the difference between these 2. So you'd see 9932 come out of your check, 5124 go back into your check. And then the Delta Dental PPO is nationwide care. If you have less than 10 years of ACERA service credit, you can still enroll in the plan. It's just that there's no subsidy available, and there's a different set of premiums that you can see. But that's the only difference. It's the same plan. Okay, the vision care is very similar. If you have at least 10 years of ACERA service credit or a service-connected disability retirement, you must enroll at least in the VSP standard plan, and it doesn't cost you anything. The self premium is exactly the same amount as the subsidy, $4.63. You can buy up into the VSP premium plan, also known as the buy-up plan. And the subsidy does not increase, it stays at $463, so you would pay the difference between the $1,663 premium and the $463 subsidy. VSP premium offers frames every 12 months instead of every 24 months under their standard plan. And again, if you have less than 10 years of ACERA service credit, you can still enroll. There's just no subsidy. Okay, we're down to just 2 more non-guaranteed benefits to talk about, and then I will be able to turn it over to the our deferred compensation representative in just a few minutes. So the 4th non-guaranteed benefit is the Medicare Part B reimbursement plan. Here's how this works. You retire. You turn 65 and become eligible for Medicare. This is a good time to enroll in Medicare at age 65. It's probably the best time, unless you're still working and you turn 65, then the best time would be to enroll in Medicare once you retire. Okay, so let's say that you enroll in Medicare. You enroll in Medicare Part A, and if you've already paid into the Medicare system for 40 quarters, so basically 10 years, Medicare Part A is free for you. If you haven't, then you can buy into Medicare Part A and pay a monthly charge. If you're a safety member and you haven't been paying into Medicare, because safety members they don't have them connected with Medicare. Okay, Medicare Part B for everyone comes with a cost, even if you have paid into the Medicare system. There is an increasing There's a sliding scale of basically there's different income brackets that come with higher and higher costs for what they charge for Medicare Part B. The lowest bracket is the cost is $164.90 for 2023. But the brackets are pretty wide, so you have to make quite a bit of money before that charge goes up. And what the Board of Retirement has done is set our subsidy level to help you pay for the cost of being enrolled in Medicare Part B at the lowest level that anyone pays for Medicare Part B. So in most cases, people are paying $164.90 for Medicare Part B, and then the subsidy is $164.90. So you pay the $164.90 to the Medicare system, and then we will put $164.90 in your Acera check. And all you need to do is fill out an enrollment form one time, and we will just keep paying that Medicare Part B reimbursement. And you just need to maintain enrollment in Medicare Part B and have at least 10 years of Acera service credit or a service-connected disability retirement. So we will remind you to enroll in this at the time that you retire and or enroll in Medicare. And we will help you through that Medicare transition process by offering you the ability to attend one of our Medicare transition webinars. If you go to our website, you go under news and events, there's retirement planning seminars here, and this is where you signed up for this seminar and where all the past recordings are. You just go one down, there's Medicare seminars. And if you turn 65 in retirement, we're actually going to send you an invitation to enroll in this. If you've already turned 65 and you're about to retire, you should go ahead and register for one. And it's not that long, it's maybe an hour and a half. And then we just tell you everything that you need to do about transitioning into Medicare. It's not too complicated. And we'll remind you at that time to enroll in the Medicare Part B reimbursement plan. Last retirement non-guaranteed benefit I want to tell you about is the supplemental cost of living adjustment, also known as the supplemental COLA. This is a very powerful benefit. What this does is it prevents you from losing more than 15% of your buying power to inflation, of the buying power that you enjoyed at the time of retirement. This prevents you from losing more than 15% to inflation. If you lose more than, if inflation gets so bad that that your buying power dips below 85% of what it originally was, the supplemental cost of living adjustment kicks in and keeps you at 85% of your original buying power, and you can never get lower. So this is a very popular benefit among retirees whenever we ask them to rate the benefits, because there's some retirees who, their buying power would be at 50% or lower if the supplemental cost of living adjustment wasn't here. So it's a pretty powerful benefit. And I learned recently that we actually pay more than other counties. Like LA County has a supplemental COLA, but it maintains you at 80% of your original buying power. So we're 5% better than that. Okay, this is the last substantive slide before I turn it over to Jean Hilliard of the county's deferred compensation program. And this just lists out some life events that maybe some of you will encounter. So that's why I don't take a deep dive in any of these, because they might not apply to everyone. I just want to tell you that these concepts exist and that we have information out on our website about this stuff. So if you are going to defer your retirement, which means you end your job and then retire at a later date, don't go directly into retirement, check out our deferred retirement page at acera.org/deferred. We do offer death benefits should you die before retirement, and it's good to keep your beneficiary, your active member beneficiary designation up to date. There's information about how to do that at acera.org/death and what the death benefits are before retirement. Should you get divorced or dissolve your state registered domestic partnership, you're definitely going to want to check out our page on that at acera.org/divorce, because benefits that you earn under Acera while you're married or in the state registered domestic partnership are part of the community property that will be up for division once that divorce or domestic partnership dissolution happens. So it's good to know how that could affect your Acera benefits. Disability retirement is something that is part of the vested benefits. That is the ability to apply for the disability, the option of applying for the disability retirement is available if you become permanently disabled and you cannot perform your job duties. There's two kinds. There's service connected and non-service connected. If you got hurt at work, basically, that's when you would have a service connected disability. And a non-service connected disability is you're still disabled, but it didn't have anything to do with your job. There's more information about that on our website. It's a whole process. It can take quite a long time, but we do have a unit here that walks you through it with a step-by-step process. If you're going to work after retirement, especially if you're going to go to work for anyone who's not one of our 6 participating employers in the pension system, have at it. If that's your choice and that's what you want to do, feel free to do that. We are going to consider you a NESARA retiree as soon as you retire, and we just give you your retirement allowance for the rest of your life every month that you've earned. And then you can go work wherever you want if you so choose. The caveat is that if you come back to work for one of our 6 participating employers, there are rules about that. So you're going to want to check out our Working After Retirement page before you make plans to do that. And then finally, if you relocate after retirement, we ask that you just fill out our address change form. It's pretty quick, and that helps us continue to send our official correspondence. And it also helps us send you your open enrollment packet every year in October. And then if you want to sign up for ACERA news, you can do that at acera.org/subscribe. And we don't send out hardly any news. It's just the important stuff. I mentioned this contact information before. This is out on our website at acera.org. If you can email us, you can call us, whatever additional questions you have, you can feel free to do that. And I will hang out after the deferred compensation presentation ends to answer any additional questions you will have if you want to hang out for that. Okay, so on behalf of ACERA's Board of Retirement and ACERA staff, we wish you a beautiful retirement. It's going to be amazing. So thanks for spending this time with me, and I wish you a beautiful rest of your day and a beautiful life. Thanks.
Appreciate you. My name is Gene Hilliard. I'm Vice President Financial Advisor of Emerge Financial Group. We're a financial services company in Oakland. We help our clients with financial planning. We do taxes for folks. We also take care of accounting for small businesses. A little bit about my background. Well, first off, I wanted to let everyone know that we were hired roughly 13, 14 years ago at the time by Prudential, which is now Empower, and hired by the county to provide retirement planning, investment advice, guidance, retirement planning, education to county employees. A little bit about my background. I'm a licensed financial consultant / stockbroker. I've been licensed for roughly 20 years, helping my clients create wealth and maintain that wealth throughout their lifetime of their children and grandchildren, if they so choose. And I'm also a retirement counselor. And my goal as a retirement counselor is to help each and every one of you maintain your current lifestyle in retirement. Okay, what does that mean in a nutshell? Well, my goal is to help you become a tier 1 employee. And I'm sure many of you on this call know exactly what that means. But my goal is to help you get 100% of your salary in retirement. The good news, you work for a great employer that's pretty much, if you do a significant amount of time with the county, you're halfway there. 50% potentially of your salary will be paid to you for the rest of your life, depending on your tier. So the other goal is to get that other half. That's where deferred comp comes in. So hopefully everyone's already invested in deferred comp. You recognize the benefit. If there's some folks on the call that is not participating in deferred comp, I strongly encourage you to do that. This presentation isn't necessarily about encouraging you to invest in deferred comp. It's really about determining whether or not you are ready to retire. right? I can't tell you how many times I've heard stories about folks saying, okay, I'm ready to retire. They go in to meet with their counselor. The counselor tells them that they're going to get X amount of dollars for the rest of their life. And they say to themselves, I can't live off of that. That is not enough money. And then they end up having to go back to work, right? So my goal is to help you determine whether or not you're truly ready for retirement. And we're just going to go through this slideshow presentation. It should take about 30, 45 minutes, and then we'll answer any questions you folks might have in the end. Okay. All right. What are you looking to accomplish in retirement? That's always going to be the first step. What do you envision? What does retirement look like to you? Do you anticipate spending more time with friends? Do you anticipate living inside the country, outside the country? What are you doing with your time now that you're no longer working? I really want everyone to really figure that stuff out prior to retirement. But most importantly, you want to know, all right, if I retire, how much do I need? How much is that going to cost me? Right? So you want to brainstorm a little bit before you retire. Okay. What is retirement readiness? How do you know if you're ready to retire? There's a number of different factors we're going to go through throughout this presentation. Social Security. How much am I going to get from Social Security? When am I going to collect Social Security? ACERA. How much am I going to get from ACERA at age 62, 65, 66, whatever age you anticipate retiring? Right? How much money do I have in retirement assets? That's a factor you want to consider. Healthcare costs. How much is it going to cost in terms of healthcare? I recognize that I'm going to get a little stipend every month, a monthly medical allowance that will be used to offset my healthcare, or how much more will I need? And are you emotionally ready for retirement? Those are some things you really want to consider and you want to start thinking about. Okay. Big picture. As I mentioned before, I talked about Social Security, healthcare, psychological effects, income. What are the details in relationship to retirement readiness that you want to really start thinking about? And I'm going to cover throughout this presentation. Investing principles. How am I going to invest this money when I'm retired? Right? Conventional wisdom says you should put everything in cash when you retire. That may or may not be appropriate. If you put it in cash or in a money market that's, let's say, for example, earning 2%, inflation's 3%, you're probably losing money. And I want to talk a little bit about inflation a little bit later. Okay, long-term care. Are you prepared for that? Estate planning. Is your situation set up where money will be passed to your beneficiaries in the most cost-efficient way possible? Okay, but first, let's talk about retirement income. Where will your income come from? Well, it's going to come from Social Security. We talked about that. In order to, I encourage everyone, if you haven't already, log on to ssa.gov, create a user ID and password so you can find out exactly how much you should expect to receive from Social Security at age 62, at age 66 or 67 or age 70, right? Another reason why you want to log on there is to confirm your birthday. Believe it or not, I've had situations where people have gone in to see how much they anticipate receiving from Social Security, only to find out their birth date is entered incorrectly, which is going to affect the amount of money that they plan on receiving. So you want to get that resolved prior to collecting Social Security, right? And I'm sure everyone's aware, log on to acera.org, create a user ID and password to see exactly how much you anticipate receiving from pensions. Okay, so this is kind of where most of your income is going to come from. Income from assets. Maybe you have some investment property. Maybe there's property you plan on inheriting when you retire. How much is that money going to be used to support yourself in retirement? And are you going to work? Are you going to come back as a retired annuitant? Are you going to do something part-time? So you want to factor in looking out into the future if you do anticipate or planning on working. Okay. Do you have enough to retire? Many financial planners say, you need about 20 times whatever your current salary is in retirement. It's a little bit more deep than that. But these are some of the questions you want to kind of ask yourself. Am I in a position to stop working? I mean, that is what retirement is, right? I want to stop working. Do I have enough money to help support my lifestyle? What do my expenses look like? Am I still paying on a mortgage? Is the mortgage paid off? Are the kids out of the house, right? What exactly will my healthcare costs be? We talked about a side job. Do you want to do, and I encourage it. I will say this for folks that I counsel in terms of retirement, there's nothing wrong with doing something part-time, right? To keep yourself sharp, right? To stay in some sort of a routine. You may want to have a good time, maybe that first 6 months to a year you're retired, but you want to do something. So you want to start thinking about that prior to retirement. And where are you going to live? Are you going to move out of state? Are you going to stay in the San Francisco Bay Area? Or are you going to move to Texas or move outside of the country? Again, those are some things you want to try to iron out prior to retirement. But let's say you don't have enough money saved towards retirement. You meet with myself, you meet with your financial consultant, and you realize, okay, I don't have enough money saved. Well, the IRS has increased the amount of money that you can put into deferred comp. So if you're under 50, right, or say you're a sheriff deputy, you plan on retiring in your early 50s, et cetera, or you're under 50, you can put away $22,500 per year into deferred comp. Okay, so you may want to consider that. So look at, all right, how much am I contributing? Can I afford to do a little bit more? Let's get as close as possible to that max. If you're 50 and over, you're behind the 8 ball, you haven't saved the way you should, well, the IRS will let you put away an additional $7,500, bringing that total this year to $30,000 a year. So that's something you might want to consider if you can afford to put even more money away. Deferred comp is a little bit different. Say, for example, with a 401k, a 403b, you can't do both. You can't do a 403b, 401k, and an IRA. But with deferred comp, you can do both. So, hey, say you're 50 years old, you want to put the max in deferred comp, you can do that at $30,000, but you can also put $7,500 into an IRA if you choose to. Now, whether or not you can deduct it depends on your income. Check with your tax person to confirm that you can actually deduct that additional money. There is also something here called the special catch-up. This is where you can put away $45,000 a year for 3 years prior to retirement. And the soonest you can participate in that is 54 and a half. Excuse me. Okay, so you might want to consider, if you have the money. I have quite a few participants that I know have money sitting in the credit union. Maybe they just inherit something, but they have money in the credit union not earning a heck of a lot in terms of interest, and they want to somehow put that money into deferred comp. Okay, now you can't just up and say, Gene, here's a check for 45 grand, put it in my account. It's not how it works. It has to come from your paycheck, has to. So here's what you do. You tell your payroll department, all right, I need you to put, I don't know, half my paycheck into deferred comp, right? They'll put it all in there. You get paid, you don't have enough to pay your bills, at least from your paycheck. Well, you go to the credit union, you go to the bank, you pull money out of that account to pay your bills. So that's how you can indirectly move money from the outside into deferred comp, but it has to start with payroll deductions. Okay, see where you stand in terms of retirement. Empower has a great tool. It's called the Retirement Income Calculator that I encourage everyone to utilize. Log on to AlamedaCountyDCP.com, create a user ID and password, get into your account, find the Retirement Income Calculator, and then just enter in information. in terms of all of your retirement assets, it's already going to know how much is in your account. But if you have assets that are earmarked for retirement, you can enter that information in there. If you know roughly how much you're going to receive from Social Security, you can enter that information in there, right? It does not include your pension from ACERA. So what you'll need to do is go in, determine what your ACERA pension is going to be, and enter that information. Hit a button, and it'll tell you within seconds, you have a surplus, you're in a good saving situation, or it will tell you you have a deficit that you need to clear up. You're either going to have to increase how much you're contributing or retire later. One or the other, okay? Retiring later, in my view, is unacceptable. I'd say suck it up, put more money in there, and retire when you want to retire, okay? Social Security, that's going to be a part of your retirement planning. For many of you, Social Security is going to be, well, actually for all of us, Social Security is going to be around. But whether or not you're going to get your full Social Security, depending on your job, your government job, more of it may be taxable. But I'm not gonna get into that. I just want to focus on Social Security. Excuse me. Let's focus on Social Security and pretty much how it works. Here's an example of how much a person can expect to receive monthly from Social Security based upon their salary. As you can see here to the far left, your average salary over your 35-year working career, wherever it is, $1,200 a month. If you make over $142,800, it's $33,000. Okay. Some cute note here, like most people, you're probably thinking, I'm not going to need more than that, or I'm going to need more than that to cover your bills, right? Now, to turn that dollar amount into a percent of your salary, right? If you're making on average 24,000, you're looking at a replacement ratio of 56,000. So if you don't make a whole lot of money, Social Security is going to cover quite a bit of your salary, at least half of it. To the far right, if you make over 143, you're only looking at a replacement ratio of 27%. Most retirees, like we always talk about, most financial planners tell us or tell you that you're going to probably need around 70 to 80% of your pre-retirement income. And obviously here, 27%, 34%, that's not going to cut it. The good news for you guys is that you have ACERA that's going to help you close that gap, and you have deferred comp that's going to help you close that gap as well. Here's a slide that I really like. It really gives you an idea of, in terms of dollars, when's the best time to collect Social Security at various ages, at 62, at 66, at age 70. So here's to the top. Here's a person who, if they retired at 62 and then you lived until you were age 80, you're looking at collecting $223,000. Versus if you were to collect Social Security at age 70, right, and you were lived till you're 80, you're looking at receiving $287,000. Which one do you think is the best option for you to get the most bang for your buck? Obviously, collecting it at full retirement, right? But as you age, as your life expectancy increases, it makes more financial sense for you to collect it later in life, say at age 70, right? But like I always say, all money is not good money, right? We've experienced this pandemic. We're losing family members, friends, consistently. It's not as bad as it once was, but the point is tomorrow's not promised. So I'm of the opinion, collect Social Security as soon as you can, or at least let's have a conversation about it. Don't wait until age 70, in my view. But we can have a discussion about it, because at the end of the day, it's about life expectancy. and you never really know how long you're going to live. And I think, in my view, that's pretty sad that you've worked so hard your entire life and put money into Social Security and you weren't able to enjoy it. Okay, but we can certainly have a conversation about it. We can debate it, but I just want to throw that out there to you folks. Creating a budget. I know this is sometimes considered a not a very good word in a lot of people's mind, but creating a budget is important. Not only is it important now, but it's going to be important in the future as well, because you're no longer working. Yes, you have your pension. Yes, you have Social Security, but if any extra bill happens to pop up, you may or may not have money related to that. So you want to kind of take those things into account when you're creating a budget, right? Create that spending plan. On the Empower site, there's a great tool that you can use to help facilitate a spending plan or a budget. So I encourage everyone to take a look at it. Log on to AlamedaCountyDCP.com to find that budget spreadsheet. When you're creating that budget, what exactly are you looking for? You want to put together your current expenses, write it all down, whether they be fixed or variable. You want to write down what you anticipate your expenses to look like in retirement, right? And match the two up, right? Is the house going to be paid off by the time I retire, right? Are the kids going to be out of the house, et cetera? So take a look at your current expenses, compare them to what your expenses may be, in the future. Here are some other retirement expenses that some people just don't think about. Maybe there's a need to relocate, or maybe, that roof that you knew you needed to replace years ago finally falls apart. And that's an expense that you didn't anticipate. Those are some things you want to take a look at. A vacation. How often do you want to take a vacation? Some people, when they retire, they say, I'm not going to take many vacations. Excuse me, I apologize for that. But when you're retired, you're going to want to enjoy yourself a little bit. You've worked hard, you scrimped, and you've saved. You deserve an opportunity to take a vacation at least once a year, maybe a lavish vacation. So those are some things you want to take into account prior to retiring. And the other thing that comes up is caring for an aging parent. Will a parent need to come in and live with you? Will you need to update the house to accommodate that person? So those are some things you want to think about that may occur when you retire. Emotional transition. This is a big one. I know, we spend a lot of time just talking about money. Will I have enough money to sustain my lifestyle? But a lot of us don't really think about the emotional toll that it takes when you're in retirement. I encourage everyone to have a purpose. You've had a purpose up to this point in your life. Your purpose has been getting up and going to work in the morning. Your purpose has been to take care of the kids. Once you retire, once the kids are grown, then you have to fill that void, so to speak, with a purpose. So I encourage you to be thinking about that prior to retirement. Are you going to volunteer, right? Maybe do something teaching at your local elementary school, or just doing something with a for-profit company or a nonprofit company, right? To fill that void. Because the last thing you want to do is to wake up one morning and say, now what do I do with my time? That's really not a great place to be. So you want to make sure that your time is spent doing something that you love, something that is exciting to you, something that fills that void, like I said, that creates that purpose that you're going to need for the rest of your life. Okay, let's talk about withdrawal strategy. You have this significant pool of assets. How do you spend it responsibly? And I'm going to go through a few withdrawal strategies with you. One strategy some people use is called the constant dollar amount withdrawal strategy. You're just picking a dollar amount. And here's an example of a person that has $500,000 and they anticipate taking out $20,000 a year, and they're going to adjust it for inflation. That's an option, right? But you want to do the math. Will your money keep up with inflation? Inflation is at 3%. So you need to get a rate of return that's somewhere north of 3% in order for your money not to run out prior to passing away. Another strategy some folks use is a percent strategy. Take a percent of your account every year, right? I typically tell folks 4% is a good starting point. Take a 4% of your account balance, right? And then every January, readjust, reassess your situation. Maybe the market's down, and maybe you need to adjust that to 3.5%. Okay, so that's a withdrawal strategy. Check with us, have a conversation with us, and see if that strategy works best for you. Another strategy some folks use is called the required minimum distribution approach, right? It's typically it's a strategy that the IRS uses when you're calculating your required minimum distribution to come out of your deferred comp or any retirement accounts. So you can use a similar strategy for your money prior to retirement. So that's an approach, that's a strategy that you might want to consider. All right, let's talk about taxes. You have this money sitting in deferred comp, you have money in an IRA, you have money in a Roth IRA. What's the tax situation? Well, I can tell you any money that's considered pre-tax, right, is going to be added to your income. So whatever you've made with potentially with outside work, whatever money that you've earned through Acera, they're going to add that to it. And then boom, your tax person is going to tell you, well, you're in a 20% tax bracket now, or 30% tax bracket, or whatever the case may be. So you want to kind of keep that in mind when you're creating a budget, or keep that in mind when you're taking money out of your deferred comp accounts. The good news is if you have any Roth money, Roth IRA, Roth 457, as long as you hold that money for at least 5 years and the account's been opened, the account's been open for 5 years and you're at least 59 and a half, then it's not going to be taxable to you. Okay. But you want to, again, any money that you want to pull out of these accounts, take into account taxes. Will Social Security benefits be taxed? Well, more than likely they probably won't be, but depends on your income. As you can see here, individual person who makes more than 25,000, but less than 34,000, 50% could be taxed. All right, so check with your tax person, check with your CPA to confirm your personal situation. But you want to know beforehand whether or not Social Security is going to be taxed, because that can definitely affect your pocketbook. Not going to spend a whole lot of time on inflation. I think you guys get that. Inflation is the cost of goods and services going up over time. Rent, in most cases, or your mortgage, that's fixed. You don't have to worry about inflation. But the cost of groceries, the cost of gas, the cost of so many different things could vary as you age. So you want to definitely take those things into account. And here's a real live example of, a gallon of milk in 1980, $1.12, and what a gallon of milk costs today. So this is just a quick example that kind of shows how inflation works and how that could affect your retirement assets in the future. Okay, where are you going to live? As I mentioned earlier, are you going to stay in California? You're going to move to the East Coast? Or are you going to go down south? Or you move outside of the country? These are some things you want to at least be thinking about, okay, as you approach retirement, right? Whether you decide to stay put or move someplace else, there's a whole lot to consider. Cost of living, quality of healthcare, that's a big one. state taxes, distance from families. I know a lot of you may say to yourself, you know what, I'm moving because it costs too much in the San Francisco Bay Area. But I can kind of tell you that if you're blessed enough to have grandchildren, you're going to want to be near them. And I'm fairly confident if your grandkids are still in the San Francisco Bay Area, you're going to probably regret moving. So you're probably going to stay here, right? So that's something you want to kind of think about as well. But I'd rather let's save as if you're going to stay here. And if you end up moving, that means you have some extra money in your pocket. Okay, here are some of the states with the lowest cost of living: Mississippi, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Kansas, Missouri. Something to consider. I mean, you may or may not have any friends or relatives there, but if money is important to you, the cost of living, a low cost of living is important. Here's some options. Okay. Long-term care, let's see, how much time do I have? Got a little bit of time. Not going to spend a great deal of time on long-term care, but I will say that if you have a long-term care policy, I would encourage, go through that with a fine-tooth comb. And I say that because people are paying a lot of money for long-term care and they're not getting as much bang for their buck, right? So you're going to probably need some extra money to cover that difference. So, but if you need someone, go to your insurance agent that sold you the policy to get some details in terms of truly how much it's going to cover, right? Long-term care in California, in the Bay Area, it's costing about 100 grand a month or 100 grand a year, $10,000 a month, roughly. And believe it or not, your policy may only cover $10,000 or closer to $5,000 or $2,500 a month versus you need 10 grand in that month. So I really encourage you, go through your long-term care policy with a fine-tooth comb to determine truly how much your long-term care policy is going to take care of you. Okay. What's included in long-term care? I'll just go through that real quick. You know, you have your bathing, your dressing, your housework, your grocery shopping. You can break some of this stuff up in terms of looking for long-term care policies where it just covers one or the other or all, you know, so be thoughtful about these policies these days. They're really, really expensive. They're costing close to $1,000+ a month, and you're not getting as much bang for your buck. But if you need some help walking through that process, or you need some help determining whether or not a policy makes more sense for you or not, let us know. We'd love to help you out, but obviously your insurance agent will probably do a much better job of taking care of that. Some people assume that Medicare, Medicaid is going to cover the bulk of long-term care, and that's just not true. Medicare covers roughly 100 days in a nursing home. People spend on average close to 2 years in a nursing home. So 100 days is not going to cut it. It'll help a little, but it's pretty much not going to cut it. So I wouldn't 100% depend on the federal government taking care of your nursing home needs. That's something that I encourage you, each and every one of you, to take some level of responsibility for. And that's where deferred comp can come in to cover some of that. Okay. Estate planning, I'll spend a little time on that. I'm not an estate planning attorney, but I know a little bit about that. I know when I was coming up, if you had a will, you were good. You did the responsible thing, you had a will, everything's good. And believe it or not, even if you do have a will, your beneficiaries are still going to be subject to probate. So there's some other areas within an estate plan that you want to focus on. Like, for example, living trust. Does it make sense to create a living trust along with the will? What is a living trust? A living trust is pretty much a document that spells out exactly how money should be distributed to your beneficiaries. You list a successor trustee. You're the initial trustee. You list a successor trustee who, like I said, is going to be responsible for divvying up this money, and it avoids probate. What is probate? Probate is that process where your beneficiaries would have to go to a judge they'd have to hire attorneys to kind of prove they're truly the beneficiaries. And this also gives other family members an opportunity to say, hey, Jane said that she wanted to give me X amount of dollars. And you look at this person and say, I haven't seen this relative ever, right? So you have people that can lay claim to assets in front of the judge. So, but when you have a trust that is created, that helps to avoid most, if not all, of those the issues that come up in court in dealing with family members. Okay, end of life medical care is included in estate planning. Guardianship of children is also included. Like I said before, it's not just a will, it's not just a trust, but these are some other issues. Power of attorney is another big one. If you're ever incapacitated for whatever reason, you want someone to be able to just, without skipping a beat, step in and sign papers on your behalf. If you don't have that in place, that can make your financial situation a little bit cumbersome for your family members. Okay, skip some of that. What's next? We're pretty much at the end of the presentation. I wanted to make sure I got out of here by at least 1 o'clock, but take a deeper dive. As I mentioned before, log on to acera.org, create a user ID and password, get a feel for how much you anticipate receiving from Acera. Very important. SSA.gov is another website you want to take a peek at to get comfortable with how much you're going to receive from Social Security at age 62, at age 66, at age 70, right? Confirm the information that's listed on that website is accurate. Like I said before, birth date, is my birth date accurate? It's my income, right? SSA will look at 35 years at least of income, right? To determine how much your Social Security should look like. Is that accurate? And then you have your Medicare information. If you need some additional information regarding Medicare, Medicare.gov is a great tool. But then you also have Acera. I encourage everyone to attend. I wrote this down. Mike said the Medicare Transition Seminar, great seminar. I've heard about it. So I encourage, if you're getting close to 65, log on there. Okay. And then obviously the irs.gov website, if you're interested in learning a little bit more about taxes, et cetera. So that's a great tool that you can use to kind of gather information that you're going to need towards retirement. If you ever need some help in the retirement planning process, you're not alone. There are 3 financial advisors that can assist you with it. You have Mark Tomei on the left, Jason Brummett on the right, he's with Empower, myself in the middle. You can contact us in a variety of ways. You can call the 855 number, that's 855-969-4572. And it just hit, I believe it's option 3 to schedule an appointment to meet with one of us. You can also log online at AlamedaCountyDCP.com. Click on, I believe it's personalized guidance. And then you'll scroll down and you can just schedule an appointment, whether it be a virtual appointment or whether it be a phone appointment. We're not doing any in-persons as of yet, but you can certainly log online to schedule an appointment or call us. If you want to bypass this 800 number, you can call us directly or call my office directly at 510-562-6355, 510-562-6355. You can, when you do call, make sure my assistant is aware that you're an Alameda County employee. That's code word for VIP. So you're going to get the first available appointment. Or you can email me directly if you'd like. I'm at G_Hilliard, HILLIARD @emergefinancial.com. Okay. So with that, I've given you the website, phone number, etc. I think with that, I'd love to entertain any questions you guys might have.
Thank you so much, Gene. That was amazing.
Thank you.
I always appreciate your expertise on this.